One hot night, when the summer heat had not subsided with the onset of darkness, a young girl was returning home after a walk, as she always did at this time. The only thing that differed from the usual course of events was that the main character accidentally reincarnated into a novel and met the main character. The young man opens the door and asks in surprise if it is His Highness Siegfried. The blonde haired guy explains that he heard that the gentleman would arrive with a carriage and he doesn't understand why his sister is out so late. The guy in the cloak says that they were ambushed and that he will explain everything else later. Hearing this, the girl standing next to him looked at him and thought that this was Prince Siegfried himself. A few hours earlier, late at night in the summer heat, a young girl in a red skirt was walking down the street. Suddenly, the main character felt pain in her shoulder because some guy had pushed her. Surprised, the girl asks who he is and why he doesn't look around. She holds her arm and asks why he needs eyes. The girl with long hair thought that the shoulder he had hit was very sore. She looked at the guy and thought that he looked quite thin, but was actually very strong. The guy in the raincoat explains that he doesn't have time and asks the girl to move away. However, she objects and tells him not to move. At that moment, the lady thinks that she can't let him go until he apologizes for his behavior. The unfamiliar young man asks the lady if she heard him. He explains that he told her to move away. However, the main character has no intention of doing so and asks him to repeat after her. The girl looks at the guy and orders him to say, "I apologize." Then she says, "Please forgive my rudeness." Hearing this, the young man is surprised and does not understand what she is talking about. Suddenly, there is a cry that "Here he is, catch him." However, the character is not even going to give in and says that she is trying to say that he was very rude to her. A few minutes later, some men approach them, and one of them says to take him. The stranger explains that this is why he told her to step aside. The unfamiliar men surround the girl, and she asks the guy if he was being chased. The guy in the raincoat asks if she can't see because he doesn't understand why she is asking. The young lady thought that he really did look very worried. She turns to the guy and says that if he had told her right away, she wouldn't have behaved that way. The girl argues that she had no way of knowing because he only said that he didn't have time. The guy in the hood suggests that the lady run away from there. However, the girl does not understand what he is talking about and asks how the guy will cope with them alone. The lady asks if he wants her to stay out of it. Suddenly, the robber grabs the main character by the hair. He says that this girl has a pretty face and that he likes girls like that. The thief says that he will deal with the lady as soon as he figures out their goal. At that moment, a stranger with a hood over his head pulls out a sword. But then he stops because the main character has used a few clever moves to deal with the thief. The lady explains to the guy that she sensed danger and her fist acted on its own. The robber looks at the lady and asks how she dared to hit his older brother. One of the thieves pulls out a knife and says he will take revenge. The stranger tells the girl to run away immediately and call the guards on the way. However, the main character objects and asks if she will not run. The guy turns to her and asks if this is all a joke to her. The lady explains that it is not a joke, but she does not understand how she can run away from there on her own. The main character looks at the robbers and thinks about whether she should try to deal with them. She thinks it should be very easy and attacks the thieves with all her might. A few minutes later, the young lady has defeated all the robbers. The guy in the cloak sees this and asks who she is. Hearing this, the main character asks if he was taught to be polite. She wonders if he knows how to say thank you and please. The young lady explains that she realized this when he hit her and didn't even apologize. Not hearing an answer, she thinks that he is ignoring her. The main character asks the stranger what he would do if she were injured while protecting him. She is interested in how the guy is going to repay her for saving him. The young lady grabs him by the neck, and he asks in surprise what she is doing. The young lady explains that she is holding him in case he decides to run away. She asks why he is wandering around at night. The stranger says that, judging by how much she has said, her shoulder is fine and asks if that is the case. Hearing this, the lady looks at him, and he turns to her and tells her to move away because she has been staring at him long enough. And he says, "Thank you." The lady replies that it's nothing. She says that he doesn't know how to apologize, but at least he knows how to say thank you. At this moment, The main character thinks that he is so handsome that it takes her breath away. The unfamiliar guy informs her that he needs to ask her something, and she asks what exactly. The gentleman asks if she knows where Ella Fritz's house is. The main character replies that she knows perfectly well because it is her house. However, she does not understand why her heart is beating so fast. Arriving at the mansion, the young lady does not understand how this happened because this guy is a guest in their house, and she could not even imagine such a coincidence. The butler addresses Lady Ariel and claims that she was out walking late at night again. The girl says that this is indeed the case and orders him to open the gate for her. The servant says that these walks could end badly, and he doesn't know what to tell the Count. He asks who is with Ariel. However, after looking at the guy and recognizing him, the butler apologizes. Walking towards the house, the main character asks the young man to be patient, and as soon as they enter the house, he will receive treatment. Looking at them, the butler remembers that his master told him to memorize what the prince looks like and to be polite to him. The servant does not understand why the lady is talking to him like that. He thinks that Ariel must know who he is. The butler, closing the gate, wonders what happened to them before they met him. Suddenly, a blond man opens the door and cries out that it is Ariel again. But when he sees the master, he is surprised and asks why His Highness Zilfried is with his sister. The guy says that he heard that the prince would arrive with a carriage. The dark-haired guy takes off his hood and explains that they've gotten into trouble, but he'll tell her about that later. The main character looked at the guy and thought that he was Prince Siegfried. Ariel couldn't even imagine that she would meet the main character at her house. And on top of everything else, she was the one who brought him here. At this moment, the maid approaches her mistress and informs her that it is late. She says she does not know what is going on, but suggests that the lady get up from the floor quickly as it is cold. Ariel is lost in her thoughts and is in no hurry to get up, and the maid asks her to do so. The girl asks what she should do, but the maid does not understand what she means. The main character sits on the bed and cannot sleep because she is very anxious and worried. No matter how hard she tries, she cannot even vaguely remember the plot of the novel. The young lady realizes that she cannot remember the details or even the work she read a couple of weeks ago, not to mention the book she read in her past life. The girl remembers that she didn't really like the last book she read because it was about war, revenge, and love. The main character does not understand whether this is good or bad, but she remembers something quite clearly. And this is the story of Siegfried, probably because of how he looks. They say that the first emperor received divine blessing and possessed superhuman strength. This man had various abilities, and they were passed down to his descendants from generation to generation. As time passed, the emperor's blood flowing in their veins weakened, and their power began to gradually disappear. But suddenly, a child with purple eyes was born into the ruling family, and only the first emperor had these eyes. The main character of this novel is Siegfried, the boy with purple eyes. Isa, Siegfried's older brother, born to a concubine, sees him as a thorn in his side. And being the son of the empress, Siegfried is the direct heir to the throne. After all, he has a special ability that no one else in the ruling family possesses. And so the nobles are divided into two camps. The crown prince has not shown any abilities, so they are trying to strip him of his title, which the first camp strongly condemns. The second camp supports Siegfried in the matter of succession to the throne. However, everything changed after the death of the young empress. On that day, a fire broke out in her palace. The part of the nobility that was loyal to the empress asked for an investigation into her death, but the emperor did not pay any attention to their requests. It seemed as if the emperor himself had been waiting for this so that he could give the throne to the empress's mother, Isa. At that time, Siegfried was only 10 years old. Since then, the empress's body has been resting in the county of Blanche with Siegfried's relatives on his mother's side. But nothing has changed, as if no one knows the truth. It is obvious that Siegfried wants to take the throne, but when he returns to the palace, there will undoubtedly be rivers of blood. The main character recalls that in the original story, she will become the bride of the crown prince. However, the young lady does not like the struggle for power, and she did not want this engagement from the very beginning. Since she does not remember what will happen to her in the plot, she does not want to get involved in all this. Ariel remembers that the prince was looking at her, and she wonders if she just had a bad first impression of him, and maybe she didn't give him a chance without realizing it. The girl is sure that she saved the prince and even took him to her home. However, she is confused by the fact that she grabbed him. The main character reflects on the fact that a week has passed since her worries began. And all this time, she has not seen the prince with her own eyes. The lady does not understand why she is irritated for some unknown reason. Because in recent days, she has only seen the doctor entering and leaving his room. Ariel thought that she was worrying for nothing because he was not showing up at the estate at all. Suddenly, the girl heard someone knocking on her door and she invited them in. The maid opened the door and, crying out, addressed her as my lady and asked her to leave the room because she was going to clean it. However, the main character objects and says that she wanted to think about everything and relax with a good book. The maid asks her mistress to find another place to do this and explains that she can no longer put off cleaning. Ariel realizes that it is useless to argue and leaves the room, and at this moment the maid tells her not to even think about coming back before dinner. Arriving in the garden, the main character remembers that the maid told her to find another place. However, she does not understand if there is a better place than her bed. The girl remembers that there is an open area behind the estate, and it is the perfect place to lie down and read. She remembers that no one goes there and she will be comfortable. Suddenly, the main character sees Siegfried behind the bushes, his hands covered in bruises. She thinks that he has hurt himself, and if she is not mistaken, he has mentioned the name of the crown prince. The lady thought that she was here at a very inopportune moment because she did not want to anger him unnecessarily. Suddenly, the prince looked at the girl and she greeted him. Ariel thought that he was just staring at her silently. She asked him if she was mistaken in thinking that he had injured himself. The girl asked if His Highness was all right. The prince replied that he was fine and told the girl not to worry. Hearing this, the main character thought that she had just seen him writhing in pain. She offered him a handkerchief. However, the young man objects and tells her not to pay any attention to him. Ariel thinks that she is ashamed of him because he should not respond like that to people who express concern for him. The lady looked at his hands and saw bruises, and she couldn't even imagine how he was going to train in that condition. The main character remembers that, according to the plot, he will become a fencing genius and even return from the war as a hero. And so she realizes that she shouldn't worry. The girl thought that she didn't want to read and that it would be better to watch the prince instead. His Highness is not very skilled with a sword, and the lady is surprised because the book said that he was unmatched in fencing. The girl watches the boy and says that he is not very good at it. At that moment, the boy asks her what she just said. Ariel apologizes and says that she was just thinking out loud. She thinks she needs to apologize again as soon as possible. The girl explains that she didn't mean it and didn't mean what she said. At that moment, she thought about what she didn't want him to hear. She said it very quietly. She didn't even think he had such good hearing and that he would hear it. His Majesty says that he is not going to accept an apology for that. However, the main character apologizes again. The lady says that she heard that the prince is unwell, and she thinks that he has injured his wrist. And maybe it's not serious for him, but if nothing is done, it can only get worse. And she asks if she should call a doctor. His Majesty looks at the girl and asks why she is so interested in him. However, the girl says that she would like to ask him something before giving an answer. The main character reflects on how cold Siegfried is in the novella, but there is one thing she cannot understand. The girl asks His Majesty if she has done something wrong. At that moment, she thinks about how this is only the second time she's seen him in her life, but she feels that the prince is hostile towards her. The lady thinks that he does not know that she will become the crown prince's fiancé in the future. And if everything goes as it did in the original story, Siegfried replies that she does not annoy him. Hearing this, the girl asks what the problem is. The guy replies that he just doesn't like her. The lady insists that he has no reason for this. However, His Majesty replies that the reason is simple and that he was in a bad mood when he saw her at the estate. The girl asks in what way, and the young prince asks if she wants him to tell her. The guy explains that on the night they went to the estate, he couldn't see her face on the street, but when he saw her in the light, he started to choke and felt nauseous. And for him, this is a terribly unpleasant feeling, since he has never felt anything like this before. The main character thought that it wasn't just that he was feeling sick at the time and almost said so. At that moment, the young gentleman looked at her and asked what was wrong with her face. The girl remembers that he really was not himself when they first met. However, she could not even imagine that he would dislike her for that reason. And she thought about how talented their main character was. Ariel turns to His Highness and asks him, looking at her now, how he feels. She asks if he is suffocating and if he feels nauseous. The lady asks if he finds her very unpleasant, and she asks him to tell her directly, without hiding anything, if he still finds her repulsive. His Highness objects and says that he does not feel that way now. Hearing this, the main character breathes a sigh of relief and thinks that perhaps it is not the original plot. After all, she was worried and spent the whole week worrying for nothing, but now she feels better. The prince apologizes to the girl, and she doesn't understand why. He explains that he is sorry for bumping into her back then. The lady says that, come to think of it, it was quite understandable. She thought it was surprising because the prince had just apologized. The girl says that the prince was in a difficult situation at the time, and she wonders if she can ask what happened. His Majesty explains that Isa tried to poison him. Hearing this, the main character says that he looks much better now that he is going outside and such. Ariel couldn't even imagine that the crown prince had tried to poison him, because Siegfried behaves as if nothing supernatural has happened. The prince claims that he knew that sooner or later Isa would decide to do this. And judging by the fact that it is still difficult for him to even hold a wooden sword in his hands, Siegfried has not yet fully recovered. The girl asks if he can at least wrap a scarf around his wrist. However, the guy objects and says not to. The main character ignores him, takes the scarf, wraps it around his wrists, and asks him not to move. His Majesty asks the lady if this is not the first time she has had to do this. He hears the girl ask how she can belong to the House of Elfrith and not be able to handle such things. The lady explains that her brothers are knights and often suffer various injuries. Therefore, she is accustomed to such matters. She mentions that her younger brother has not yet officially become a knight. The prince thanks the girl, and she says that if he is in pain, he should let her take a look. The main character asks His Highness if he plans to stay here. The guy says yes and asks why she's interested. However, the lady does not answer and says that she is going home because it is getting dark. Suddenly, the prince grabs her hand and asks her to stay. After that, the girl cries out, "Your mother!" and says that she is scared. The young man hears this again and asks her to repeat what she said before. The young woman explains that it is a bad expression and insists that one should not speak that way. However, the young gentleman asks why she is saying it then. The lady suggests forgetting about it. Hearing these words, His Majesty takes offense, and the girl, crying out, says that he is very handsome. However, the guy insists that she should not say that. The lady insists that she is also beautiful. However, the guy says that he did not say that. The girl agrees with him that he did not say that and asks if it is true, because she is beautiful. Siegfried reminds the girl that she wanted to leave. Hearing this, the main character insists that she will only leave when he answers her. However, the prince orders her to leave immediately. Ariel, sitting in her room, reflects on the fact that they discovered something very important that night, because she is also beautiful. The girl recalls the prince's words that it is bad for him to look at her, and she realizes that the young man does not understand beauty at all. The next day, the main character puts on a beautiful dress and says that she is ready to go, because for the first time in a long time, she is going somewhere. When she arrives at the market, the lady sees a lot of delicious food. She asks the owner to give her everything as usual. Suddenly, the lady remembers that she has forgotten her purse. The girl asks the owner if she can have the food on credit. The seller says that she works for the count, so she will definitely pay him back. Suddenly, a man with white hair approaches the girl and hugs her. Then he offers the owner money and says he will pay for the girl. The main character is surprised and asks if she can drink everything. The stranger says yes and offers her to order whatever she wants on one condition. He wants someone to talk to and asks if she will keep him company. Sitting at the table, the young lady asks the guy's name. He replies that his name is Carrion Epsilon, and he asks her the same question. The girl tells him her name. The guy with silver hair says he is pleased to meet Ariel. However, the girl corrects him and says her name is Elle. She asks if he is a local. The stranger is surprised and asks how she knew. The lady explains that it is because of his accent. Kirion says he understands because the girl works as a maid on the Count's estate. The lady confirms his words and says that their mistress is so strict that he cannot even imagine it. She says that it is very difficult to carry out her orders. The guy with silver hair claims that there are rumors that the mistress is very beautiful, just like her. Hearing this, the main character replies that she thinks so because she is not unattractive. The guy says that he has heard something because recently the Count's estate has been hosting a very distinguished guest. Hearing this, the young lady looks at the guy and says that he is very interested in the affairs of the Count's family. At that moment, she thinks that this guy is digging deep, and she doesn't understand why he needs this information. Kirian asks if all commoners follow the lives of the nobility. Ariel replies that many people showed interest when she said she worked at the estate, but not to such an extent. The main character thought that he was not a local, but still knew about the guest. The silver-haired guy says it's really late and asks if she can leave the estate at this hour. The girl says she can, as long as she doesn't get caught. Kirian pours the girl a strong drink and says that he has heard that the Count has very serious security and asks if she uses some kind of secret passage. Hearing this, Ariel thinks he is very suspicious. She tells him that if she tells him, it will no longer be a secret. The guy suggests that the girl leave since she has drunk a lot and is probably very tired. He says that it is late and therefore walks her home. However, the main character objects and says that it is not necessary as it is very close and she can get home by herself. Kirian says it's really late and dark, and he follows the girl. Seeing this, the lady says that pushy guys aren't cool. The guy says that there's nothing you can do about it because it's dangerous on the streets at night and tells the girl to be careful. Ariel turns to the guy and says that she had fun with him. She hopes that he will also get home safely. As the guy was leaving, the main character saw that something had fallen out of his pocket and told him about it. Kirian claims that it is very important a note and asks the girl to give it back to him. The main character apologizes for looking without asking. She explains that when she picked it up, the ribbon came undone and offers to retie it. The lady gives the note back to the guy and thanks him for paying for the drinks. Ariel wonders if it was a portrait of Siegfried. She does not understand why Kirian would want a portrait of him. When the girl came home, the first thing she decided to do was visit His Highness. She approaches the door and knocks. However, the young prince wonders who wants to visit him so late at night. The main character explains that she is Ariel, the girl who gave him her handkerchief. She reminds him that they have talked many times. The lady thought that it was not the time for the prince to relax, as a suspicious person was looking for him. She was sure that Kirian wanted to find Siegfried. However, the question was who he really was. His Majesty opens the door and asks the lady if she knows what time it is. The lady remembers that Siegfried lost his money and entourage on the road. He said that he borrowed a small amount from someone and was able to reach them thanks to that. The main character assumes that if this Kirian gave him money, it is logical that he carries a portrait of Siegfried and is looking for him. Ariel looked at the prince and saw his tousled hair and half-closed eyes with a sad expression on his face. She thought that now was not the time for the prince to sleep. The lady says that it is now 2 o'clock in the morning. Suddenly, the guy closes the door and suggests that the girl go to sleep. Seeing this, she cries out and insists that this is not the case. She asks the guy to wait and listen to her, and at this time, she holds the door and does not let the guy close it. Siegfried does not understand what the girl is doing and claims that she almost hurt herself. Ariel says that it doesn't matter because His Highness said that he borrowed money before moving to the estate. The girl explains that today at the tavern, she met a very strange man who had his portrait. However, the prince claims that she is drunk and suggests that she go to bed, closing the door in her face. The main character insists that he listen to her. She says that she was drinking, but she's not drunk. The prince still did not open the door for her, so the girl went to her room and changed into her pajamas. She recalls that Siegfried did not even listen to her and called her a drunk. The lady reflects that it doesn't seem like the prince is in trouble, but she feels uncomfortable with his indifference. Suddenly, the lady remembers that Kirian didn't drink a drop. Suddenly, the main character notices that someone is there and asks about it. The girl orders them to show themselves before she calls the guards. Kirion turns to Ariella and tells her that it is him, and at that moment covers her mouth with his hand. The guy tells her that they have met again. The girl tells him to let her go so they can talk, but it is difficult to hear her because his hand is covering her mouth. Hearing this, the guy laughs, and the girl insists that there is nothing to laugh about. The surprised lady asks why Kirion is here. However, the guy says that he wanted to ask the same thing, because he doesn't understand what she is doing here. At this moment, they hear someone shouting that the killer has entered the other side and that they need to be careful. After these words, Kirion says that they will see each other again and then they will discuss everything. The guy jumps off the balcony and quickly disappears from view. A few minutes later, the guards come running up and ask if Milady is all right. They explain that a suspicious man has entered the estate and that they saw him heading in her direction. Ariel says she's fine and tells them that the guy ran off somewhere and orders them to find him. The girl thinks that the guy has probably already escaped and that she should have tried to catch up with him. Suddenly, she sees blood on the door and assumes that it might be his. The lady remembers that when they met at the tavern, Kirion was fine. This means that he was injured somewhere on the estate, but the knights were unable to catch up with him. She considers that she needs to ask her brother what is going on. Suddenly, the maid cries out about the blood. She wonders if the killer has hurt her. Ariel insists that the blood on the window is not hers and offers to wash everything properly. The girl overhears the prince saying that it was Isa's doing and asks if anyone else is injured. Her brother replies that, "Thank the gods, everyone else is fine." At this point, the lady thinks that they are talking about Kirion. The blonde-haired guy says he is sorry that no one was able to see the killer as the knights let him get away. The prince says that perhaps in the course of further investigation, they will find some clues. And, for example, the person who is listening to them now will tell them something. And he invites the girl to come in. The main character hears this and does not understand where he got such keen hearing. Ariel enters the room and greets His Highness and her brother. Seeing her, the blonde guy is surprised and asks what she's doing here. The girl explains that, to be honest, she wanted to tell him something about the events of this morning, and she thinks that the murderer is her drinking companion. The prince invites the lady to come in and sit down since she has something to say and asks if that is the case. Her brother doesn't understand what happened and asks the girl about it. He asks if she left the estate again. And did the girl notice anything suspicious about him? Ariel explains that he introduced himself as Kirion Epicino. He is a guy a little over 6 feet tall, with red eyes and silver hair. At the inn, he asked a lot of questions about the estate, and he had a portrait of the prince. The girl assumes that he probably already knew who she was. The main character says that he snuck into the estate and found her, but didn't do anything. The guards were chasing him, so he immediately disappeared and wasn't caught. Hearing this, the prince says that she could have been hurt if he had listened to her then. The guy claims that it's all his fault. However, the main character reassures him and says that he is in much greater danger than she is, and that she is glad that at least he listened to her now. Siegfried claims that this is not the first time this has happened to him and that it is not a big deal. Moreover, after she arrived, he did not sleep, so he would not have been caught off guard. His Majesty suggests that because of his wrist, he would not have been able to deal with Kirion. Hearing this, the main character says that she thought it was the prince who injured him. In that case, he could have been sent by someone who knows him well. Siegfried agrees with the lady and says that she is right, because only Isa wants him dead so badly, and he apologizes for causing them trouble. Hearing this, the blonde-haired guy tells him not to say that again, because nothing is more important than His Highness's safety. The prince thanks him for his kind words and informs him that he has left a deep cut on his arm, so they will not see him for some time. Ariel's brother says he will provide the prince with guards. However, upon hearing this, His Majesty says that he is capable of defending himself, and he insists that there is no reason to worry. At this moment, the main character sees that Siegfried has smiled a very warm smile. His Highness informs Ariel that he thinks she needs an escort. Since she saw the attacker's face, it is clear that she will be hunted. Hearing this, the main character suggests not to worry, as she can protect herself. She thinks that even with an escort, it will be difficult for her to get outside. However, Siegfried urges her not to refuse, as he is genuinely concerned for her. The girl assures him that she does not need help. The prince insists otherwise. However, the lady does not understand why he wants this. His Majesty says that there is no need to be stubborn here, and she simply has to agree. He explains that if something happens to her, he will be responsible. Hearing this, the main character agrees, but on one condition. As soon as Kirion is caught, everything will be as it was before. Siegfried looks at the girl and thanks her. He explains that thanks to her, they were able to avoid the worst, and he is still alive. Hearing this, the main character smiles and says that she never thought she would hear words of gratitude from him. The prince asks her not to smile, and since he is finished, they can now leave. Ariel reflects on how, after Kirion's attack, Siegfried has been very focused on his health. Because of this, they haven't seen each other for 2 weeks. The lady realizes that because of her escort, she cannot go outside and she cannot admire his beautiful face. The girl does not understand why life is so difficult. However, she is sure that if she waits a little, there will be a celebration on her street too. Because today is the start of the annual Elfrith Festival. At this festival, there will be a hunt for mythical sirens, and therefore everything is fine. People are drinking and eating. The main character is sure that she will be able to cheer herself up there. Walking down the corridor, the lady sees her younger brother Miliad coming out of the room. Seeing the girl, he asks her why she is here. However, Ariel asks him if he has spent all his money on games. The guy claims that today he is lost, but tomorrow he may win. Ariel suggests that her brother tell her directly what he has forgotten here. However, she did not hear his answer and went about her business. The main character asks the maid if her dress for the festival is ready. The maid replies that her dress is ready and that when she wears it, no one will be able to tell that she is of noble birth. The lady says that this is exactly what she needs. Abishian informs the prince that it is time for the festival and the capture of the sirens. Siegfried says that he has already heard about it. Ariel asks the prince if he wants to go with them, since he is always at home anyway. His Majesty replies that he does not want to go because he does not like noisy places. The main character thinks that it is difficult to imagine the prince enjoying the atmosphere of the festival with such an indifferent expression on his face. The lady announces that she will go alone, and her brother explains that he cannot go because he has a lot of work to do. Hearing this, Ariel says that she will find other handsome men herself. After all, there is nothing she can do about it. If no one wants to go with her, she will have to go alone. Hearing this, Miliad asks his sister if she has forgotten that countesses do not attend such events. The girl asks him if he has forgotten that the poor were not allowed to speak. Suddenly, her older brother announces that Ariel and Miliad are going to the festival as representatives of their family, not to have fun. However, the main character does not understand that they are not even allowed to enjoy the festival. And so she does not want to go. However, her brother assures her that they will have free time and reminds her not to forget about her escort. The prince explains to the countess that until Kirion is caught, she will have to go everywhere with security. However, the main character objects and says that she does not need them and reminds him that she saved the prince when they first met. Hearing this, Siegfried insists that she needs security and more. After these words, he says nothing more. The lady is still interested in what he has to say and asks him about it. However, the prince insists that he does not want to say anything more. The main character claims that His Majesty has a terrible habit. The prince responds by telling her not to repeat after him, explaining that he does not say it that way. Ariel says that she will go anyway while the sun is still up, and her brother tells her to be careful. When she gets outside, the main character doesn't know when it's starting and asks about it. The guard says it's in 2 hours and asks the lady to wait a bit longer. At this moment, the main character thinks that because of this guard, she can't even have fun. Suddenly, the lady thinks that since the festival will start in 2 hours, she still has plenty of time. She suggests that the security guard wait there while she goes to change her clothes. She explains that she will not do it right there. The security guard agrees with her. Moving a little further away, the main character says that she almost died of boredom, and if only they knew how much she had been looking forward to this festival. Ariel peeks out of the tent and thinks that now is a great chance to escape. since the guard has turned away and is looking the other way. Running away, the girl thinks that now she has 2 hours of freedom. The guard looks into the tent and calls out to the lady, explaining that since she is not responding, he is forced to enter. However, the guard did not find the lady inside and saw the note she had written. He reads that the girl tells him not to worry, as she will be back before the festival starts and everything will be fine. Walking down the street, the main character thought that she had gone somewhere wrong because there were very few people there. She thought that probably 2 hours had passed and she needed to go back. Suddenly, the lady saw the knights and she didn't understand why they were there. The girl looked at them and thought that they were not from their family. As she approached them, the lady heard them talking about the prince and she didn't understand what was going on. Ariel overheard the strangers saying that Siegfried had said he would not come here. Suddenly, the main character saw something and immediately thought of something terrible. There were two men walking quickly in a dark, secluded place. They were carrying a huge sack of potatoes or flour, but the sack was so heavy that even the two of them had trouble carrying it. Following them, the lady thought that this was definitely not what she had expected to see at the festival. Ariel was curious about what was inside the sack. Suddenly, she saw the handkerchief she had given to the prince when she bandaged his arm. The main character thought that the prince might be in that bag. However, the young lady was not yet sure what was happening, but she was not going to just sit there. She thought about whether she should call the guards. Ariel realized that there was no time and that she might suddenly lose them, just like she had lost Kirion. All this time, Kirion was watching her from the roof. Looking at these guys, the girl thought that if it really was Siegfried in the sack, then nothing terrible would happen to him since he was a prince. Milady realizes that he is definitely in a dangerous situation and she needs to save him. The unfamiliar man asks the guy if they can leave now. He replies that the boss should be coming soon, so their work is done. The guy suggests that the man go somewhere for a drink, and he agrees, since they will definitely be serving alcohol at the festival. The main character approaches the door and says that they have locked it well because without a key, she is unlikely to be able to open it. The girl wonders if there might be another entrance to the house. The lady sees that there is a window at the top and thinks that if she climbs onto the bags, she will be able to get in. A few minutes later, Ariel climbs inside and realizes that it is a whole warehouse, and she cannot see anything because of the dust and darkness. The main character asks if anyone is there and asks them to respond. Suddenly, Ariel saw a guy with his mouth tied shut and his hands tied. She went closer to him and saw that it was His Highness and screamed. The girl lifted the boy up and asked if he was okay. However, His Highness did not respond and she did not know what to do because he was unconscious. The lady thought that she would not be able to carry him herself. Since Ariel couldn't think of anything else to do, she apologized to His Highness and slapped him several times across the face. After that, the girl asks the prince if he has regained consciousness. The lady says that she thought she would have to hit him harder. Siegfried asks in surprise where they are and what happened. However, the girl replies that she wanted to ask him that and asks who kidnapped him. His Highness explains that he remembers leaving the house with Milad and eating a cookie and then losing consciousness. Hearing this, the lady apologizes for interrupting him and says that he is completely gone. Ariel claims that she offered to go with him, but he refused and agreed to go with Milad. However, the prince asks her to remove the ropes first, and then they will talk. The girl suggests that he say thank you because she has a dagger. Freeing the prince's hands, the main character says that she is really hurt because he said he doesn't like public places. And she is very hurt when he hates her, but for some reason loves Milad. Siegfried claims that it's all because of her. Hearing this, the lady is surprised. Suddenly, the door opens and Kirion enters the warehouse. He turns to the girl and says that this is the third time they have met. And according to him, it is fate that brings them together. His Majesty, looking at the guy and exclaiming, tells him to shut up and asks if Isa hired him. The guy with silver hair says that he didn't want to admit it, but it's true, and he will get a lot of money for his head. Kirion informs him that His Majesty will therefore have to fall into an eternal sleep. At this time, Siegfried holds a dagger behind his back and says that the Knights of the Elifritz family are already looking for them, and that he is already conscious. His Majesty cuts the rope that binds his hands and says that he just needs to hold on until they arrive. Hearing this, Kirian asks if he seriously thinks they will stop him, and if so, he finds these words very funny. The guy with silver hair asks why they think he chose this place. Kirian explains that it's fire and oil and a bunch of bags that will explode in 10 seconds. He asks if they understand his plan now. The guy with silver hair says that he will burn here today and disappear without a trace, along with him and his plans for the second heir to the throne. The mercenary looks at the girl and invites her to come with him. He says he likes her, so he will save her life. At that moment, Ariel thought that she would have to listen to his words. Since she would be mischievous, he might do something to her. When the girl approaches Kirian, he pours oil on the prince. His Majesty is interested in how much Isa paid him. The guy with silver hair is interested in whether he wants to bargain with him in such a situation. The prince asked if he had given him 100,000 erks or 1,000,000. The mercenary replies that he is practically right. Hearing this, Siegfried says that he finds it funny because he did not think his life was so cheap. The prince says he will give him 10 million, and for that money, he must simply kill Isa. Kirian explains that he does not believe they will succeed, especially since he has already received 3 out of 10 diamonds from his million. His Highness says that if he becomes king, all the mines will also become his. He claims that the mercenary doesn't need 10 diamonds because he can give him 100. The guy with silver hair hears this and says that it sounds more like a deal. He asks where the guarantee is that the prince will become king. After all, he is not going to risk his life for empty promises. Kirian says that the crown prince has the support and respect of noble families, while he is in hiding and on the run. He is sure that everyone in the country wants to see the first prince as king and that Siegfried's words are complete nonsense. The mercenary claims that no matter how high the price, it is much easier to kill him than the first prince. Hearing this, His Highness says that there is nothing left to do because there is enough time anyway, and he gets up from the ground and shows his dagger. Seeing this, his mercenary throws a lamp at him, and at that moment, the warehouse becomes hot. Siegfried runs up to Kirion, and at that moment, a battle begins between them. Ariel looked at them and thought about how difficult it was for the prince to hold a sword last time. And she thought about how this was the main male character's buff. The guy with silver hair insists that the prince should have been killed immediately. Hearing this, His Highness replies that he wasted valuable time like a fool. A fight breaks out between the men, and the main character thinks that the prince will be the winner. Having lost his sword, Kirian asks the prince how much he promised for the crown prince's head. However, he replies that he is thinking of changing his decision because he is the one who must kill Isa, and says that this has been clear for a long time. The mercenary asks what he wants from him now. The prince raises his sword and puts it to the young man's neck, saying that he wants Kirian to work for him now. Siegfried says that if Ice hired him, it means he is capable of many things. Hearing this, Kirian wonders if it was all just empty words. The prince replies that of course it was and asks if he fell for it. His Highness announces that in 2 weeks he will be participating in a monster hunt and Kirian must go with him. Since there will be a monster hunt in 2 weeks, he expects the silver-haired boy to go with him. Kirian asks if the prince thinks he is too expensive for him. However, His Highness asks if he has forgotten that he just tried to kill him. And he suggests that he should not forget who is responsible for him still being alive. Siegfried explains that he just needs a companion to be with him on the hunt. The main character approaches the prince and tells him that she is glad he is okay. His Highness says that the dagger came in handy and asks if the lady always carries it with her. The girl explains that she only carries it when she goes out for a walk to relieve her boredom. Ariel explains that she usually hides it under layers of her dress and asks if he wants to learn how to do that. However, the prince objects and explains that he does not wear dresses. At that moment, Kirian thinks that he has indeed lost. He says that he will go out with them. Suddenly, Miliad runs up to them and apologizes for losing sight of him. Ariel's younger brother explains that he searched the entire village and couldn't find him, so he thought about it. However, before he can finish, the prince interrupts him and says that everything is fine and tells him not to worry about it. Miliad asks in surprise what happened since the prince's clothes are dirty. However, he replies that everything is fine and nothing happened. Her brother asks Ariel why she was with His Highness. He looks at the girl and says that her clothes are also dirty. However, Milady wanted to say something, and at that moment the prince looked at her and saw that her face showed that this explanation would not be easy for her. Ariel replies that she just happened to meet the prince and showed him around. She looks at her clothes and says that they can be changed. Millier thought that something was definitely wrong here and that they were hiding something from him. Suddenly, the main character cries out that the festival is about to end and suggests that they go to it. Her brother insists that the prince should join them first. Ariel changed into a dress and announced that she was ready. Since they were late, she suggested that they have a good time. The girl turns to the prince and says that they are at the festival and insists that they should eat and laugh. His Highness says that there is no need, as he already understands the atmosphere of the festival. Hearing this, the girl does not understand if he really understands. She says that he is always with Milad. The prince says that this is enough for him. Hearing this, the girl tells him not to make fun of her and explains that his first festival must be memorable. Siegfried asks if she is afraid that someone else might want to kill him. Ariel says that he has dealt with him and she does not understand what the problem is. The lady says that she believes the prince will win. His Highness says that he does not think that all of Isa's mercenaries will be so stupid. He suggests that suddenly he might not be able to cope and she might suffer because of it too. Siegfried looks at the girl and says that he doesn't understand because the lady is not afraid of suffering and this is very strange to him. Ariel asks the prince if she can ask him a question. The lady claims that he also wanted to go to the festival with her, but was just waiting for the welcome speech to end, and she asks if this is true. Hearing this, the prince cries out in protest and says that it is not true. The lovely lady asks His Majesty if he wanted to go and is embarrassed that she found out about his true feelings. Ariel says that she is more afraid that if he is alone, the prince will definitely be attacked, and she asks if he understands this. The girl says that if they take him to some deserted place again, she is definitely not going to sit idly by. The main character tells him to stop thinking about such things and suggests that he have fun. She grabs the guy by the hand and leads him to a counter with various delicacies. The girl shows the guy how interesting the festival can be and how they can have a good time. Suddenly, Ariel thinks about how many people there are around them, so many that they have even split up. The main character suggests that the guy take her hand. Hearing this, Siegfried asks how he can take the hand of a stranger. The lady explains that she is not thrilled about it either, but they could get lost. In the end, the prince agrees to her request. The girl asks if it will hurt him if she touches his wrist. The guy replies that it's okay and she can take his hand. Walking down the street together, the main character suggests going to see a puppet show. The prince watches the performance with enthusiasm, and looking at him, the girl thinks that he is like a child. After the premiere, the prince thanks the girl, and she doesn't understand why. His Majesty explains that she helped him and saved him, and at the same time did not tell Milya about what happened. Ariel says that she thought that was what he wanted, and she doesn't understand why it should be kept secret. Siegfried explains that he doesn't want to worry her family since he will be leaving soon anyway. He thinks that this is unlikely to be the last skirmish in his life, and he doesn't want to put them in danger. The prince says that she could have been hurt because of him. His Highness insists that this is precisely why it is better to stay away from him. At this point, Ariel argues that if she hadn't found him, who knows what might have happened to him, and asks the young man if he has thought about that. The main character says that if he is having a hard time and needs help, he should just ask. After all, the main thing is to survive and then protect those around him. The girl looks at the prince and assures him that in difficult times, one should rely more on others and not come up with all sorts of nonsense. The lady claims that she is from the Elifritz family and therefore is not going to just sit pretty when something like this happens. She therefore suggests that the prince should not be afraid to accept help. The main character says that if he is having a hard time, he can tell her about it. And no matter what happens, they will overcome everything together. Hearing this, Siegfried thinks that she is only 15 years old, which means she needs adult help, and he does not understand this. The prince suggests that the girl should not pretend to be an adult. His Majesty asks if she will help him if he is in danger. Ariel replies that of course she would, because she would not run away, but rather come to his aid. and she thought that she would do it only so that he could escape from Isa and become the ruler of this country. The main character looks at the prince and thinks that he wants to tell her something, so she asks him about it. However, he objects and says that he didn't want to say anything. His Majesty asks Ariel what she wants in return for her help and says that she can name anything. The girl replies that she has not thought about it yet, but suggests 10 million elk and asks if he can pay her that. Siegfried says that today was a difficult day, but for many, it also brought pleasure. Late in the evening, returning to her home, the main character thinks about how tired she is from the festivities. Walking down the corridor, Milady meets her brother and says that he is glad to see her. He claims that his little sister is even more beautiful today and that she is so beautiful. However, upon hearing this, Ariel thinks that he wants something from her and suggests that he get to the point. Miliad asks his sister if she knows Baron Helix. He reminds her that they have met. Ariel replies that of course she knows him, since they are partners in gambling, and asks what he wants from her. Her brother asks his sister if she can meet with him, since he is lost. However, the lady objects and asks why she should do that. Miliad says that she can just go to lunch with him. After all, nothing bad will happen if she makes this gentleman happy by giving him a little of her time. Hearing this, Ariel asks her brother if he has decided to cover his debt in exchange for a date with her. Miliad realizes that she has figured him out, and he tells her that his sister is right. The brother looks at the lady and, crying out, suggests that she use words instead of her hands. The main character asks her brother if he is not ashamed to use his sister in this way. The blonde-haired guy tells the girl to calm down and explains that he just wants her to go on at least one date before she gets old. Hearing this, Ariel asks since when Baron Helix has been a man. After all, she knows that he is 3 years younger than her. Miliad suggests that they could get engaged and asks her about it. However, his sister objects and cries out, "No!" Since her brother does not understand why not, he asks her to tell him the reason. Ariel explains that she already likes another guy and asks if he understands this. And the girl thinks that she needs to be more careful so that her brother does not understand anything. Hearing this, Miliad screams and asks if she has met a handsome and rich guy over 6 feet tall, and the guy wonders who this stranger is. The main character replies that it's a secret, but her brother wants to know who she likes and asks her about it. The girl tells him to back off, but he insists that he's just not there and that it's an excuse, and asks his sister about it again. Suddenly, Ariel sees the prince and says that it's him. At that moment, her brother realizes what's going on and exclaims that he knew there was something between them. Miliad says that they were doing something inappropriate there and asks if it's true. Hearing this, the main character slaps her brother on the head and tells him not to even think about getting her involved in any trouble. She asks him how he can be so shameless, since he is the same age as her and is 15 years old. Siegfried doesn't understand what's going on and asks them about it. Miliad turns to the gentleman and asks what he has done to make his sister fall in love with him. Ariel looks at His Highness and says that he is very handsome. The blonde-haired guy suggests that he listen to him because even if they are in a relationship, he has already agreed with the Baron about their meeting and he needs to pay off his debt. The prince asks if his debt is from gambling. Miliad explains that he didn't want to go that far because he himself cannot pay that amount. At this moment, the main character looks at the prince and thinks that he is going to help her brother, and this infuriates her. Siegfried asks the young man if he should not pay his debt himself. Hearing this, Miliad does not know how to respond and says that the prince is right, apologizes to his sister, and leaves his room. The main character looks at the prince and says that she made it up to get rid of Miliad and asks him not to think anything else. She tells him that she loves His Highness, and therefore everything is fine. Siegfried says that he didn't think anything like that, and upon hearing this, the main character asks if it's true and says that she is very happy. Ariel looks at the prince and says that he is not her type at all. Hearing this, the guy is surprised and exclaims that she is not his type either. Siegfried stayed at the Elfrith estate to increase his influence and get rid of Isa's influence. The main character realizes that the prince is still ignoring her, and she realizes that she hasn't seen his face in so many days. Ariel. When she met the prince in the corridor, she tried to come up and say hello, but he just turned around and walked away. The main character reflects on the fact that she explained to him that he is not her type, but the prince continues to avoid her so that no rumors spread. And the lady does not understand why all this is happening because it is not true anyway. While walking in the garden, Ariel met her older brother and the prince who were practicing with sticks at the time. The girl cries out that it is so hot and asks what they are doing. Abyssin explains that they need to prepare for the hunt. The girl asks if that means His Highness is also participating, and he replies that he is. Ariel says that she looked because she could be replaced and asks if she really exists for them again, since they pretended that she was nothing to them. However, the prince objects and says that nothing of the sort is true. The older brother tells his sister that she is also participating and asks why she shouldn't practice. He suggests that she take a sword because she may lose all her skills. The girl quickly takes the stick and says that even though the heat is incredible and her clothes are unsuitable, she will not give up training. Siegfried asks Abyssinia in surprise if the lady is going hunting. The guy replies that of course she is, because she is stronger than any knight in their guard. The main character confirms that this is true and asks if he didn't know that. His Majesty says that he understands and offers to test her skills. At this moment, Ariel thinks that she is already convinced of the prince's skills, considering that he was able to defeat Kyrian and that his skills are incredible. The main character asks him not to hit her too hard. At this moment, she thinks that she is not weak either, but wonders if she will be able to defeat him. The prince tells her not to worry, as he wants to fight her, not kill her. Siegfried says that whoever drops their sword will lose. After these words, they begin to fight with sticks. In this fight, the main character proves to be a worthy opponent for the prince. But after a few minutes, Ariel realizes that he is yielding to her because she can see his attacks. The girl assumes that this may be because she has already seen him in battle. The main character reflects on what she understands, because the prince cannot be weak since she has seen his true strength. She realizes that it is difficult for her to keep up the pressure. Suddenly, Ariel loses her balance because of her high heels and falls. Siegfried asks the girl if she needs help getting up and offers her his hand. The girl grabs his hand and stands up. She says that he ignored her so persistently, and now he just offers her his hand and she doesn't understand why and asks him about it. The prince explains that the situation is different now. However, the girl does not understand and asks why it is different. His Majesty informs her that the atmosphere was different then. The lady asks him to let go of her hand and thank her for a fair fight. Siegfried does not understand how the lady managed to fend off all his attacks, and he asks her about it. Ariel replies that she does not know herself and asks him if he is trying to create a new scandal in the house. However, the prince does not understand and asks what she means. The girl explains that they could be misunderstood since they have never met, and she does not understand why he is asking such questions. However, the prince assures her that he did not mean it that way. He says that she seems to be reading his every move. The main character agrees with him and says that she has already told him that she does not feel anything for him. Hearing this, Siegfried says that she keeps repeating it and asks why. The girl replies that it's just the way it is and suggests that he forget about it. After all, they haven't met. She doesn't love him, and the answer to everything is no. Ariel tells her brother that she is leaving and suggests that he be careful. Suddenly, His Majesty grabs the girl by the hand and asks her not to leave. Seeing this, Abishan says that he suddenly has a lot of things to do and needs to leave, leaving them alone. The prince asks the girl who she likes. Hearing this, the main character thinks that she just said it casually and doesn't understand why he is reacting this way. Ariel turns to His Highness and asks if he is in love with her. However, the prince interrupts her and tells her not to think anything like that. Siegfried explains that he just wants to know the tastes of his subjects, which is why he asks the girl. The main character thinks for a moment and remembers her brother's words. The girl explains that she likes handsome men who are 190 centimeters tall or taller, and that he must be very rich and intelligent, and he must not have a belly. The guy must be fit and take care of her, love her, and help her. Hearing this, the prince is surprised and says that it is very detailed. He explains that he is just curious and asks the girl not to think anything wrong. Ariel replies that she didn't even want to think about anything like that. Siegfried tells the lady that she is constantly spoiling his mood with her words. Hearing this, the girl does not understand why and asks about it. However, not hearing an answer, the main character thinks that maybe she crossed the line, and she looks at the prince and thinks that he is definitely offended by her. During the trip, all the nobility of the South stay in Elifritz for 2 days, which is something of a tradition. The main character was responsible for accommodating the nobility and their guards in their home. On the first day before the hunt, a banquet was held. All the visitors could enjoy it at their leisure. But since the Elifritz family took responsibility for the preparations, Ariel was very busy for several days. During the banquet, a woman approaches the main character and says that they haven't seen each other in a long time and asks how Lady Ariella is doing. The girl confirms her words and says that they haven't seen each other for a whole year. She also asks how she is doing. Suddenly, a young man greets the main character. She looks at him and remembers that he is Mr. Manuel. The young man says in surprise that she hasn't seen him for 3 years, but recognized him immediately. The guy with black hair tells Ariel that she has done a great job with the reception and that he is surprised by its sophistication. Manuel looks at the guy, who is dressed in beautiful clothes, and says that he sees His Highness. At that moment, the main character thinks that the prince is so handsome in these clothes and that the color of his eyes is irresistible. Ariel tells Manuel that it is time to end the conversation and suggests that they talk again tomorrow. The young man agrees with her and says that he is also tired because the road was long and it tired him a little. The main character informs him that she has arranged for him to stay in an excellent room and suggests that he go and rest. Manuel agrees with her and asks if Lady Ariella will be busy tomorrow afternoon. If not, they can go for a walk together. Suddenly, the prince pushes the guy and apologizes for it. He explains that there is so little space here, and he accidentally pushed him and asks the guy not to think anything else. Manuel sees the prince and says that he didn't think anything of it because anything can happen. The guy holds his shoulder and asks the lady, "How about tomorrow?" At that moment, the prince wonders if he is going to leave. However, Manuel asks if they can meet after the reception. But suddenly, the prince kicks Manuel with his foot and apologizes again, explaining that it is very slippery here. The guy says that if he slips again, he'll break his bones. However, the prince claims that bones are not so easy to break. At this moment, the main character thinks that His Majesty is doing this on purpose. Siegfried informs them that it is late and tells Manuel that he can leave and wishes him good night. He asks why he is not leaving and offers to hold the door for him if it is difficult to walk. Upon hearing this, Manuel leaves. His Majesty looks at the girl and says that this guy is not like her ideal. Ariel replies that she doesn't even think of him in that way. However, the prince insists that he thinks of her, and the main character wonders how he knows that. The lady asks the prince if he has been drinking. The guy objects and says he hasn't been drinking. However, the girl thinks he is lying to her because, looking at him, it is clear that he is drunk. The girl says that she understands why he is behaving so strangely. Now everything is clear to her. She claims that the guy is not yet of age and asks who poured him a drink. Siegfried says that her brother poured him a little wine. Hearing this, the main character thinks that her brother Miliad is a jerk and says that she will teach him a lesson. Suddenly, the prince grabs her hand and asks her not to leave. He says that the man is not at all what she wants. The girl replies that he has already told her that. Ariel cries out that Manuel is not her type, and she doesn't even think of him that way. Hearing this, Siegfried says that's good, but he doesn't understand why he is so tired. The lady explains that he drank a lot. She asks if he made any friends today. His Majesty replies that, in general, he had a good time, but when he saw her with that man, he flew into a rage. The prince tells the girl not to get close to him because of this. However, the main character does not understand why and asks him about it. She explains that they have been friends since childhood and does not understand why she should do that. Siegfried tries his best to explain to her that she shouldn't do it because he loves her. And suddenly, after these words, he falls asleep. Lady tries to wake him up, but she fails, and she says that everything is as usual because he doesn't finish what he's saying. The next morning, sitting at the table with the lords, Abishan says that they finished quickly this year because last year, not many nobles visited them. The gray haired man says that they had to stay and look after the affairs of the province, but fortunately, this time. Suddenly, the woman sitting next to him interrupts him and says that they just decided to show off in front of His Highness. Hearing their conversation, the main character thought that they were annoying her, but she had to sit there because they were her guests. The main character looked at the prince and wondered how he was feeling today, since he had drunk so much yesterday. The girl thought about how the prince had become very close to her family during his stay here, and she understands that this is right because he needs to establish connections. Ariel realizes that, overall, Siegfried is a very interesting and intelligent young man. She doesn't think it would be difficult to become friends with him, since he will be like a younger brother to her. The main character doesn't understand what's going on because the prince keeps staring at her, but when she looks at him, he turns away. The count says that the food at the reception is excellent and asks the lady if she prepared it all herself. The girl says that the cooks did it all, and he asks if she wrote the menu. The lady replies that it is her job. The count tells her that his name is Faresa and asks the lady if she would like to take a walk with him. The main character sees that the guy is busy talking to her brother and accepts the offer to go for a walk. Once outside with the count, the lady thinks that she finally feels at peace. Faresa tells the girl that he heard that she turned 20 last spring. The count says that he knew this was his destiny, and he kneels down, takes the girl's hand, and asks her to marry him. Seeing this, the main character cries out and asks why it is so sudden. Faresa explains that it may be a sudden decision for her, but not for him. He has been waiting for this moment for a long time. However, the main character does not understand what he is doing. The count asks if he can kiss her hand. At this moment, the main character thinks about why she didn't refuse right away. Ariel wonders if he has heard about her ideal type of man. Foresa replies that he has heard and thinks that after talking to the lady, she will change her mind. The main character reflects that everyone in the South knew about her standards of beauty for her future husband and fiancé. Of course, there were those who ignored her wishes and sent her letters with proposals of marriage, but she rejected them all. Ariel was at a good age for marriage, but it wasn't that she didn't want to get engaged, it was just that she didn't like these sudden proposals at all. The main character, looking at the man, realized that he did not have what she was looking for in a man, since after meeting Siegfried, all other young men seemed unattractive. The girl looked at the count and said that she'd better go back. However, the man insisted and said that he knew they would have one daughter and two sons. Hearing this, Ariel thought that this man had completely lost his mind. But suddenly, His Majesty opens the window and asks Count Ferres what he thinks he is doing. The man asks the prince in surprise if he has been listening to their conversation. Siegfried claims that he was not eavesdropping, and Ferres asks why he is here now. The prince suggested to the count that he should withdraw his proposal of marriage. However, the man objected and said that it was their personal business. Siegfried says that Ariella suddenly thought about how she said she loved him. His Majesty apologizes to the count and claims that Ariella said she could not find a man as wonderful as him anywhere else. Hearing this, the main character does not understand when this happened. She remembers that she did indeed compliment him, but not in this way. The prince asserts that the lady also said she would wait for him to come of age. The main character does not understand what he is talking about because she does not remember this. Count Fares asks the girl if this is true. She objects and says no. His Majesty addresses Ariel and asserts that she said she liked him. And she said these words in front of her own brother. The prince asks if the lady enjoys playing with men's hearts. He suggests they wait, as he will call Miliad to confirm his words. Count Fares addresses the girl and asks her forgiveness. He suggests that she forget his proposal, and after these words, he quickly runs away. The main character realizes that she does not want to look ridiculous and asks the count to stop and wait with her. The prince thinks that he has gotten rid of the count. Ariel asks His Majesty why he is treating her this way. The prince explains that he saved her and asks if she needed help. However, the main character insists that this is wrong, and of course, she said something similar. But she assumes that rumors may spread that she is in love with the prince. Siegfried says that if she is so worried about the consequences, she should not have lied to her brother about her feelings for him. and he says it's too late now. The girl looks at him and does not understand what is wrong with the prince. After all, he used to blush at the slightest touch or joke. At this moment, the main character realizes that one thing is clear: she will have problems. The next day, the great hunt began. Ariel dressed in a comfortable outfit and was ready to start hunting. Count Ferris greeted the girl with a smile on his face. At that moment, the main character thought that he hadn't said anything, since the rest of the nobility still communicated freely with her. However, the lady realizes that the Count's behavior surprises her a little, because yesterday she realized that she needs to be more careful with Siegfried. After all, he is not going to talk about her feelings for him. Ariel looked at the prince and thought that he was indeed handsome. However, now this beauty did not seem so pure. Suddenly, His Majesty walked past the girl without even looking at her. She doesn't understand because for several days in a row, the prince constantly talked about her taste in men, and now he is behaving this way. Killian saw the main character and said that he didn't know she would be here. At that moment, Ariella thought about how she had completely forgotten that Killian now works for Siegfried. However, Abycinus didn't this idea like very much, but His Highness said it was for the greater good, so the former had to agree. The lady doesn't understand because in any case, it seems very strange to her to turn her almost killer into her assistant. But in the end, that's exactly how it turned out. The guy with silver hair claims that he will be of great help and tells the girl not to worry. He asks her if she knows how difficult it will be for everyone without him. Hearing this, Ariel thinks that this is a very confident position. The girl offers him to look at her muscles and asks if he still doesn't believe her. Killian smiles and replies that of course he believes her and asks her to let go of his fist. At this moment, the main character thinks that Killian cannot be trusted in any case. After all, this man is willing to do anything for money, and therefore he is always ready to betray them. And she decides that she will simply be on her guard. The guy with silver hair asks the lady if there is an easy way to catch mermaids. Oh, and he offers to tell her if she knows. Ariel wonders why he keeps talking to her. Killian replies that he doesn't know anyone else. He asks if they are drinking buddies and moves closer to her. The guy tells the girl that he thinks it's better for them to stay closer, and at that moment, he touches her shoulder. The main character rejects his hand and asks what he thinks he's doing. The guy with silver hair asks what she is talking about and explains that he just wants to get closer to her. The girl asks if he thinks she doesn't understand what he's up to. She tells him not to come near her. Abishon says that they can stop for now, rest here, and then continue on. Since there is only one day left to the village of Court, from where their destination is very close. Hearing this, Ariel thought about how much she missed their local grapes. And to be honest, she agreed to participate in the hunt for one reason: to try the famous grapes of the village of Corda. The grapes were delicate and pleasant to the taste, and they were produced in small quantities, which is why they were highly prized. Ariel remembered that after her first monster hunt, she was treated to them in the village. And now she always looked forward to that moment. The lady thought that she needed to become stronger for the sake of these grapes. She can't wait to taste them. The main character asks her brother if she can have a snack here. However, Abyssinian does not understand why she has decided this and suggests that they eat together. Ariel explains that she would like to eat in a quiet place, all by herself. Hearing this, her brother understands and suggests that they meet later, wishing her bon appétit. At this moment, the main character thinks that she would rather die than be near Siegfried. The girl sees some young men near a tree and thinks about going to them, because there are a lot of people there, but she thinks there will be room for her. The main character greets the guys and asks if they like everything here. However, the guys don't understand what she means because they didn't even expect a lady to approach them and grace their place with her presence. The girl asks if she can join their meal. The man invites the girl to sit down and explains that it is an honor for them. The gray-haired man asks the girl if she is currently seeing anyone. The lady objects and says that she has no one in mind. The count asks if she would like to meet his second son. He thinks they would be a good match. The red-haired guy asks if he thinks a man with the title of count would be suitable for the lady. The guy turns to the lady and asks if she would like to have dinner with him. Hearing this, the girl laughs and replies that she doesn't think she has time. In the South, the Elifritz family has the most influence and power. Since Ariel is the only daughter of this family, many young aristocrats try to court her. However, she is not interested in them and they only annoy her. The girl approached the tree where Killian was sitting and sat down next to him. The guy with silver hair claims that the lady said she didn't want anything to do with him, but now she has come to him herself. However, the girl replies that this is not true because she is not here because of him. Killian asks why she came here. Ariel explains that it's because other people are afraid to approach them. The guy thanks the lady for the compliment. He asks her if she feels the stairs directed in their direction. The girl replies that she does and asks the guy if he can finally shut up. The main character thought that since she was next to Killian, none of the aristocrats dared to approach her, and so she quickly solved the problem of their absence. Killian asks Ariel if she knows how easy it is to kill a mermaid and reminds her that she hasn't answered his question. Hearing this, the main character replies that he just needs to strike them in the heart. At that moment, the girl thinks that she feels as if Killian is some kind of shield for her. Ariel suggests that the guy stop talking to her. After all, she wants to see the beauty of this forest, not answer his questions. Late in the evening, they finally arrive at the hotel, and Abishan suggests unpacking their luggage and resting. And he announces that they will be leaving tomorrow morning. At this point, Ariel says that she will finally be able to sleep in a comfortable bed. Suddenly, a young man approaches the lady and asks if she can follow him. The main character asks where she should go. The servant explains that he asked not to tell her about it. The girl claims that he is from Abishan and asks what he is carrying. Ariel sees the prince and tells her servant to tell them that she sees no point in going there. A few minutes later, the servant returns and says that he told her to come anyway. The lady asks who he is. The guy says that if he tells her, she won't go. Ariel asks if His Highness is calling her. The servant agrees with her. The main character tells the guy to tell him to come to the right place in an hour. The girl thought that today they definitely need to talk and clarify everything that is happening. The lady thinks that she has time and considers the questions she will ask him. Late in the evening, the girl meets with His Highness and asks why he is behaving this way. Hearing this, the guy asks what he did wrong. The main character explains that he asked her to come here and everyone knows about it. Ariel cries out and offers to explain why he is doing this. Siegfried does not answer her question, but asks what connects her to Kirion. He is interested in whether they are friends and since when, but he does not understand what is going on between them. The prince looks at the girl and says that this is the first time he has seen her since that day. The main character insists that it doesn't matter now and asks him about it. However, the guy objects and says that it is important to him. The girl doesn't understand why and asks him about it. She wonders if he will interfere with her again. Siegfried claims that they spent the whole day together. The lady says she is very sorry, but there was nothing between her and Kirion. She asks the prince if he understands. His Majesty asks if she is telling the truth. The lady explains that at his age he may be attracted to older girls. She claims that she is beautiful and stands out, and that is why he may have fallen in love with her. Ariel asserts that this is definitely not the right way to behave, primarily because she does not like it. Hearing this, the prince thinks that he understands what is going on. Siegfried says that he doesn't like her, and he thinks that this is easy to understand. The girl looks at the prince and doesn't understand what's wrong with him. She assumes that she didn't say anything bad, but he's acting as if she's terrible. The prince says that it wasn't easy for him to upset her, and he says that maybe he went a little too far because he wanted to make up with her all day. But she kept avoiding him. Siegfried says that yesterday he thought he should help. Hearing this, the girl asks only one thing, and at that moment, she thought that she didn't understand why someone would behave like that when they wanted to help someone. Ariel looks at the guy and tells him to stop. She says she almost fell for it and tells him not to think that this trick will work again. The lady tells the guy to stop playing games. The main character wonders why he gets involved every time a man approaches her. She explains that she just wants to marry her ideal type. His Majesty asks if this is true. He says that he has tried hard and does not think he will ever be ready to see her with another man. Hearing this, the girl looks at the guy and asks if it's true that he likes her. Ariel wonders if His Majesty wants to propose to her. And that is why he behaved that way when one of the men approached her? Siegfried asks the lady if she wants him to say it directly, and she replies that she wants to hear it with her own ears. The main character says that if he continues to remain silent, he will come across as a teenager who picks on the one he likes for no reason. Hearing this, the prince thinks for a moment and asks if she will accept his proposal if he asks for her hand in marriage. The lady objects and says no. The prince asks why, and she says that you never know what might happen to your appearance, status, and height. Siegfried asks if she has ever met a man who was more suitable for her than him. Ariel looks at the prince and asks if he is a man. She thinks that His Highness is still a boy. The girl explains that his beauty is like a rose in a garden to her, and the guy asks what that means. The lady explains that she likes to look at the rose, and that's all. The main character asks the prince if he has heard about her ideal type. After all, he must be at least 6 feet tall. The guy claims that he is still growing. The girl says that if he wants to grow up big, isn't it time for him to go to the land of dreams? His Majesty insists that she shouldn't think he's still a child. Hearing this, the main character thinks that he still has a long way to go. The girl turns to the prince and asks him not to bother her. She explains that she wants to live a quiet life and suggests that the guy find himself another bride, since there are many beautiful girls his age in the world. The lady suggests that the young man wait at least 5 years before asking for her hand. At that moment, she thought that, of course, there was no guarantee that she would not be married by then. Siegfried says that because of her age, the lady won't even give him a chance, and asks if that's too much to ask, but he can't help it because he's drawn to her and can't change that. The young man tells the girl not to think that he will give up so easily. He insists that he will not give up until her feelings warm up at least a little. Hearing this, the main character thinks that this means the guy will continue to bother her in the future. However, the girl understands that the prince's feelings for her are wrong, and she doesn't understand when she managed to get so close to his heart. After hunting monsters, Siegfried will go to the Eastern Front, and then the battle for the throne with Isa will enter a new phase. The main character thought that maybe she should accept this fate for a while. After all, there is not much time left, and if she quarrels with him again, she will never be able to see him again. Descending the stairs, Ariel saw the men and thought they looked so excited. She understands that the chance of dying at the hands of a siren is small. But during such a hunt, it is quite natural to suffer a serious injury. Sirens are dangerous magical creatures with human faces and the bodies of fish or birds with incredibly sharp claws. They have a special power to seduce people, making them unable to defend themselves. Ariel remembers that you must not look into a siren's eyes or listen to their singing. And in their habitats, there are many crows flying around, feeding on carrion. Battles with these dangerous creatures are a real problem. Abyssinian reports that all preparations are complete and it is time for them to depart. After all, they must return safely for dinner. The guys excitedly shout that they are ready to hunt. At this moment, the main character thinks about how she will have to fight for the court grubs. Suddenly, the lady sees His Highness and asks if he is still angry with her because of yesterday. However, not hearing an answer, she thinks that he is not even looking in her direction. Ariel thought that this might not be the case at all, since today is his first battle. She realizes that she is a more experienced hunter and therefore should give him advice. The main character calls him Your Highness, but he does not respond to her. And at that moment, she thought that Siegfried was very strong and perhaps she should not worry about it. However, Lady cannot remember what happened in the novel. She can barely remember that Siegfried is the main character, and the insignificant event involving him took place without any incidents. Abyssinian reports that they have arrived at their destination and will have to continue on foot from here. He explains to the prince that he has heard that under the spell of the sirens, one can see all sorts of things. Ariel's brother explains to His Highness that if he is not careful, he will be enchanted, and therefore advises the prince to be vigilant. Hearing this, His Highness tells the young man not to worry. As they approach the mountains, they see many crows, among which are sirens. The hunters heard a strange sound, and at that moment they all covered their ears with their palms. Suddenly, Ariel looked up at the sky and saw a siren that had chosen the girl as its target. However, the lady reacted quickly, drew her sword, and killed the bird. The main character saw the prince, who also quickly dealt with the siren. At that moment, she thought that she should not worry about her brother. And somewhere out there, Miliad was doing quite well. The girl thought that now her main problem was His Highness. After all, he would definitely fall under the siren's spell. She understood that the chance was small, but there was still a possibility of a bad turn of events. Ariel realized that she had just read a novel and had a bad feeling about it. The main character looked at the prince and thought that, thank God, he was not seriously injured. The girl runs up to the prince, grabs him by the shoulder, and at that moment he pushes her away. However, the girl urges the guy to come to his senses and cries out about it. The lady realizes that simple words won't help here. She grabs his shoulder again and apologizes. The girl thinks that this is the only way to free him from his stupor. After all, she has to hit him in the face. Suddenly, Siegfried comes to his senses and asks what happened because his cheek hurts. The main character says she is very sorry, but she had no other choice because His Highness could have died. The prince asks if she saved him again. Suddenly, Ariel's eyes clouded over a little and she rubbed them. She didn't understand where the mermaid had gone. She was curious as to why she was seeing this handsome man with a beautiful figure. The girl looks at the guy and sees that he has black hair and a cute mole under his eye. And she thinks that he looks like a grown-up version of Siegfried. The lady doesn't understand where this beautiful creature came from, and she thought that she must be delirious. Suddenly, the guy cries out and calls her name. The girl looks at him and thinks that he is so sexy, even when he is angry. The prince holds the girl by the shoulders and shakes her, shouting for her to come to her senses and wake up. At that moment, the main character thought that the person pulling her shoulder was someone she couldn't see because of her poor eyesight, as everything was blurry to her. Ariel realizes that she saved Siegfried and immediately fell into the siren's trap. She held this handsome guy's hand so tightly and was ready to go with him to the ends of the earth. The girl realizes that if she hadn't been shaken by the shoulder, she would have remained captive to the illusion. The main character realizes that she has never encountered sirens while hunting, and having relaxed just a little, she does not understand how this could have happened. The lady reflects on the fact that from now on, she must always be on her guard. Siegfried claims that the lady asked him to be careful, but she herself fell for it. Ariel explains that this is also her first time, and thanks to him, Her Highness has gained valuable experience. The prince says that in any case, he is grateful to her. Hearing this, the main character does not understand why and asks about it. The guy explains that today she saved him again. His Majesty explains that if the lady had not been nearby, he could have gotten into big trouble. However, the main character says that she should not be thanked for that. Ariel reports that she has seen something beautiful, and the prince asks her about it. The main character recalls that legend has it that mermaids show their soulmates in their illusions. The lady realizes that she has met her prince. She explains what this means. Hearing this from the prince, he asks her to hurry up and tell him. As he is curious, the girl wonders whether she should tell him because then how will she be able to look him in the eye? Ariel asks the prince what he saw. The guy looks at the girl and replies that he saw her. At this moment, the main character reflects on the fact that she must take her secret to the grave. However, Siegfried is curious about what the girl saw and asks her again. The lady explains that now they are like an open book. However, the guy assures her that nothing will happen because of one word. The main character suggests talking about it later and offers to return to the others. However, a siren attacks them from behind and the girl quickly finishes her off. She asks His Majesty if he is all right. The guy replies that he is fine and thanks the girl. A few minutes later, on the way to the others, Siegfried kills all the sirens. There are more of them than anyone else, and now no one can compare to His Majesty. The lady realizes that their main character is now on an unattainable level, and she doesn't understand why he starts acting like a child in front of her. After all, seeing Siegfried in her illusion was strange, and she doesn't understand if Ariel could have loved the prince in the novel. The main character wonders if he is cute, and she does not understand why the adult image of Siegfried appeared in her mind. Ariel bandages the prince's knee and informs him that everything is almost ready and asks him to be patient a little longer. The girl observes that the prince is so absorbed in exterminating the mermaids that she feels she no longer needs to worry about him. Suddenly, the main character hears someone screaming and becomes interested. Coming out from behind a rock, she sees Count Ferez being attacked by a mermaid. The girl wasted no time and quickly finished it off. Seeing this, the wounded Count says that he now feels relieved and that if it weren't for the lady, he would have died. Ariel approached him and asked if he was injured. Ferez said that he had been unable to react due to the sudden attack. The lady looked at him and said that the wound appeared to be deep. The lady says that it is too early to call a priest, so they will begin treatment. Hearing this, the Count thanks her. The girl bandaged his shoulder to stop the bleeding. Farisa says that she knows how to do everything. The Count asks the girl not to behave like that. After all, he is 190 centimeters tall, and yet he knows that the girl likes the prince. However, the lady replies that this is not the case and asks him to understand her correctly. Ferez tells the lady that she doesn't need to hide it. He explains that he hasn't told anyone and doesn't plan to. Ariel assures the Count that she has no connection with the prince. And that day, he just wanted to joke around. Ferez says that it seems they are so close with the prince that such jokes are normal. Hearing this, the main character thinks that this man cannot be persuaded, and she does not understand how long he will continue to talk like this. Suddenly, the Count hears someone calling the girl. He says that the voice seems to belong to His Majesty. Ariel wonders if it could be a siren, since they are very good at imitating other people's voices. Ferez, hearing this, says that this is the first time he has heard of this. And at that moment, the main character thought about how it was possible to be so short-sighted. Ariel hears the sounds a person makes when in pain and sees the prince. The lady thinks that the prince seems to have decided to repeat after Count Ferez. At this moment, the Count informs the lady that he is fine. He tells her that she can leave. Ariel suggests that it would be best to call a priest for His Highness. Ferez says he doesn't need a priest and tells the girl to hurry up. At that moment, the prince says he is in pain. The Count sees the prince and says that he thinks His Highness is very ill, and he tells the girl to hurry to his aid. Ariel asks the prince where it hurts so much. She thinks he may have injured his head. Siegfried asks the girl how she knew this. After all, the cheek she hit is burning. The main character says that she now regrets it a little, but there is nothing she can say about it. The lady explains that she has a fairly light hand, but she was in such a hurry to bring Siegfried to his senses that she may have misjudged her strength. Milady agrees with the prince and says she's very sorry. The gentleman says that if that's the case, he asks the lady to take care of him. The girl asks if it hurts. She doesn't get why he didn't tell her about it before and asks him about it. Siegfried explains that it didn't hurt before. Hearing this, the main character asks why it suddenly started to burn. The main character says that instead of arguing with her, she asks if he wants her to treat him. Siegfried says that he has been in pain since she started helping the Count. Hearing this, the girl thinks that he is only pursuing his own interests. The prince says that while she was away, he worked hard and got rid of all the sirens in the area, and that's why he deserves a reward. Ariel asks the prince if he has ever thought about giving rather than taking. He replies that maybe next time. The main character opens a bottle of medicine and applies it to a cloth, then applies it to the prince's wound. His Highness says that he is cold. At that moment, the main character thinks that he is so cute up close. The lady thinks that he should only think about himself, but she couldn't be angry with someone with such a face. Ariel suggests that Siegfried be patient because things are not so bad, and as a reward for the prince's efforts. However, the main character did not have time to finish her sentence when the prince suddenly grabbed her. At that moment, a siren attacked them. His Highness quickly drew his sword and killed the siren. The prince let go of the girl and, crying out, apologizes to her and explains that he didn't mean it. At that moment, the main character thought that he had behaved coolly because it's not every day that she gets to see something like that. And she thought that she wanted him to always be like that. Siegfried took off his scarf, and the girl looked at him and thought that it was pity. And she felt that now she would not be able to give him a reward. Ariel turns to the prince and assures him that she is powerless and therefore cannot cure the boy. The girl says that a priest must be called. However, His Majesty does not answer the girl, and she asks if he wanted to receive a reward from her. If so, he must say what he wants. After all, she is ready to listen to him for his help. Hearing this, Siegfried was surprised and asked if it was true. The lady looked at the prince and thought that perhaps she had said something wrong. At that moment, she thought that she was a little scared because she did not know what he might ask for. The main character assumes that he couldn't possibly ask for anything strange. His Majesty says that then, and after these words, he falls silent and the main character asks what he wanted to say. However, the guy says okay, and after that, he doesn't answer anything. He just approaches the lady and hugs her. The girl objects and says that this won't do and pushes the prince away. At that moment, she thinks that he is like a puppy and she wants to pet him. The lady thinks that this is a good idea and she will treat Siegfried as if he were a dog. Ariel thinks that the prince is a little too big for a puppy, but she can just think of him as a big dog that can talk. She realizes that it's hard for her to think of him any other way. However, if she treats him that way, it won't hurt his feelings. The main character realizes that she and Siegfried don't have much time left to be together. The aristocrats enthusiastically declare that His Highness is simply incredible, because today he killed more sirens than anyone else while hunting. The prince saved many human lives, and that is why they consider him remarkable. The count approaches His Majesty and thanks him for saving his life today. He claims that if it weren't for him, they wouldn't be here. The main character looked at them from afar and thought that he had befriended the northern nobility faster than she had thought. Since these people will take Siegfried's side in the future and fight alongside him against Isa, the lady thought that for now, they needed to gather as many supporters as possible. Abyssinian reported that the first day of hunting had gone well, as they had managed to avoid serious injuries. Therefore, he would like to gather everyone for a modest dinner. Sitting at the table, Ariel thought about how tired she was. Having spent the whole day running around and swinging her sword, the girl announces that she is leaving, but suddenly the prince grabs her by the hand and suggests that she stay a little longer. The count sees that the girl is getting up and asks her if she is leaving. At this moment, he says that the lady not only fought monsters today, but was also always there when someone needed first aid. Fairs claims that the lady worked harder than anyone else today. The aristocrat informs her that the servants have already heated the water in the ladies' room, and if the girl is tired, she can go upstairs and rest. Fairs says that tomorrow they will go hunting, so it is better not to overexert themselves today. Ariel thanks them and says they will see each other tomorrow. Leaving her room, the main character thinks that dinner is long over, and at the end of the corridor, she sees the count with His Majesty. The prince turns to the count and says that he thinks he is a little hard of hearing and did not hear what he said to him earlier, and he asks if this is true. Count Fares does not understand what His Highness means and asks him about it. The prince asks him why he is constantly hanging around Ariel. The main character looks at them and does not understand what the prince is doing there. Fares asks if he was talking about his actions today. He wonders if that's not what friends do. The count explains that he was just being polite. The prince agrees with him and says that he should stop behaving like that, because she has him for that and the count is only a burden to Ariel. The count asks if the prince himself did not take advantage of the lady's position today and explains that she was uncomfortable. Fares asserts that Lady Ariel wants to be with the prince. At this moment, Siegfried thinks that there is too much noise and says that he is saying too many unnecessary words. The prince says that this time he can forgive him and let him consider it a sign of his good nature. His Highness says that he will repeat himself once more and asks Fares to listen carefully and not even think about it. But suddenly the main character approaches from behind and covers his mouth with her hand. Ariel, standing behind the prince, asks Count Forrest what the prince said earlier. The count replies that he was too rude and that he should have left and given them a chance to be together. Hearing this, the main character does not understand what he is talking about. At this moment, Forrest apologizes and says that he has to go. The main character thinks that this is the second time that people have misunderstood her because of Siegfried. The prince asks the lady if she dislikes him. The girl agrees with him and asks how else could it be. However, the prince did not respond, and she considered that she should have phrased it more delicately. Siegfried informs her that the count never takes his eyes off her. As soon as she appears, he turns his gaze toward her. The girl asks how he knows this. His Highness explains that he himself only looks at her. Hearing this, the main character thinks that if she had heard something like this from a 20-year-old, she would be in seventh heaven. The girl does not understand why Siegfried is 5 years younger than her. After all, it makes her suffer so much. The prince is interested in what the lady is doing here at night. She replies that she woke up and decided to take a walk. The guy asks if she's on her way to the kitchen. The lady agrees and asks if he wants to join her. Sitting at the table, Ariel thinks that when they sit together like this, she doesn't even know what to say. She feels a little uncomfortable because the prince is looking at her all the time. The girl says that she just remembered their first meeting. Siegfried says that he was worried then because he had to hide from Isa's pursuit. Ariel says that when he saw her, it was as if everything inside him turned upside down and he felt nauseous. She asks him if he feels the same way now. The prince replies that it's not because he felt uncomfortable and says that he never said anything like that. The guy explains that he was overwhelmed with strong emotions when he saw the lady. Inside, it was as if everything had turned upside down, and he was confused because his heart was beating wildly in his chest. The prince recalls that when he first saw the girl, he couldn't take his eyes off her. He also wondered if they had met before. Ariel says that these phrases are so cliché. She asks if the guy really fell in love with her at first sight. She wonders if he is trying to tell her that, because she thinks it's so boring. Siegfried is surprised and asks why she finds it boring. The prince asks the girl why she is so dismissive of his feelings. He asks her to repeat that she really finds his words boring. Ariel thought that this was not the case and wanted to explain something to him. But she looked at the young man and wished him good night. The young gentleman did not hear her answer, got up and left the room. And at that moment, the main character thought that she had said something wrong. The monster hunt lasted 3 more days, and the main character reflects on the fact that since that night, Siegfried has not come near her. However, the lady understood that this did not mean that she did not feel his presence, because Siegfried was constantly watching her from somewhere, but when their eyes met, he would proudly raise his head and turn away with a look of displeasure. However, after a while, his anger subsided, and Siegfried became his old self again. It was clear that his resentment would not last long. The aristocrats say that they were able to quickly complete the hunt for monsters, and for this, they must thank the prince. However, Siegfried insists that they also worked hard. Ariel thought about how the hunt lasted only 4 days, and she remembers that last month it lasted 2 weeks. She joked that Siegfried could kill 100 sirens in a day, and now she thinks that such a thing is possible. Heroine sees the lady and tells her that he thinks the prince is very busy. The main character says that they haven't seen each other in a long time. And the guy with silver hair says that's not true. It seems like 4 days have passed. The lady asks the guy if he has been working hard on the prince during the time they haven't seen each other. And he replies that he thinks she's very interested in His Highness. Hearing this, the main character objects and says that this is not the case at all. And Heroine asserts that the stronger the denial, the closer the truth. However, the girl objects and asks who says so. The guy says that if she doesn't like such conversations, he suggests she dance. However, the lady rejects his offer. Heroine, upset, says that there is nothing he can do about it and that he will sit alone in the corner. Hearing this, the main character gets angry and asks why he is making others feel guilty. She says that if you think about it, it's not such a bad idea because it's just one dance. The guy with silver hair says that it reminds him of their first meeting in a bar because back then, he was also standing behind her. Ariel agrees with him and says that's right, and she is still grateful for the drink. However, if after that Heroine, had not tried to kill the prince, they would have only had pleasant memories of that evening. The guy explains that it was Ariel who warned the prince, which is why he almost died. Hearing this, the main character says that he talks too much and that it's all in the past. Heroine says that the wound will heal over time, but the scar will remain in his soul. However, the main character is lost in thought. The guy looks at her and asks what is bothering her. Not hearing an answer, he asks the girl again to give him one dance. Seeing this, the prince throws a dagger at the guy's head, which sticks into the wall. He asks if she will give him one dance. Heroine looks at His Majesty in surprise and says that he did not even know what could cause him such concern. Siegfried asks if he understands everything. Then why doesn't he just disappear? Hearing this, the young man replies that he can consider him not to have been here. Ariel looks at the prince and tells him that he didn't have to behave that way. The gentleman does not understand what the girl means and explains that he tried to kill them. The prince claims that Kirion now pretends to obey him. But since he served Isa, it is difficult to predict when he will show his true colors. His Highness asks the girl if she is being too careless. The lady replies that only 3 days have passed and asks if he is not too bloodthirsty. She says that if she had not spoken to him first, she wonders if he would have been angry with her before leaving. Ariel says that this has happened before and that as soon as they had a little argument, he started ignoring her. Siegfried asks if she means that they will never see each other again. He says that when all this is over, they will have no reason to meet, and claims that in time she will forget him completely and live a peaceful life as if nothing had happened. His Highness looks at the lady and asks if he is right. He wonders if it would make her feel better. A normal life without Siegfried? Ariel reflects on how everything will be the same as always, with days that are similar to one another. However, to dispel boredom, the maids will tell various rumors. Miliad will make bets, and Abishan will scold him for it. The girl thinks about how she will sometimes receive marriage proposals, and perhaps it will all be in vain. Ariel asserts that even if they part ways soon, she will not be able to forget him. The main character says that maybe they will meet again somehow and tells him that he can always write her a letter. Therefore, he should not be so categorical. The lady says that sometimes when they remember each other, they will wish only the best for each other. Hearing this, the prince turns and leaves, and the main character thinks that she has said something wrong again because she does not understand why he is behaving this way. However, the lady blindly follows Siegfried, not knowing where she is going. Suddenly, a man stops the prince and asks if he is Siegfried. The man says that he is Baron Herbert from the province that includes the village of Korda. The main character watches the prince and does not understand who this man is who approached him, and it seems to her that they are not acquainted. The baron says that he would like the prince to stay at his estate instead of this dilapidated place. The prince replies that he cannot leave his people there and live here alone. Baron Herbert asks the prince if he is trying to remain loyal to his subjects, and he says that this is the behavior of a true ruler. The man says that he wants to report that most of the nobility believe in Prince Siegfried. At this point, the main character does not understand what the baron means. The baron asserts that the only true heir is the crown prince. And since the empress has died, the forces behind Isa have gained control over his family. Herbert says that a handful of people from his brother's clan have been manipulated by the political world, which has led to discord and chaos. But very soon, many will witness Prince Siegfried, the true heir, overthrow Isa. Baron Herbert claims that everything will change when the prince asserts his claim to the throne, and they place such hopes on the prince. Hearing this, Ariel thought that everyone thinks this way about Siegfried, and that is why he does not want to discuss this topic and talk about it so openly. The Baron says that he sincerely wants to support him, and has therefore prepared a small gift and invites the prince to go with him. Hearing this, His Highness says that it is not necessary. He says that he thinks he has seen everything he wanted to see, and therefore, however, the Baron asks him to wait. Abyssin asks Ariel if she's awake. He informs her that grapes have been delivered from the farm and suggests that they hurry. Seeing the grapes, the main character cries out with delight that she has been waiting for this day for so long. Her brother says that there is not much here and asks if she wants him to bring more. The girl replies that she wants to eat as much as possible. Enjoying the grapes, the main character says that this is her reward for her hard work. Suddenly, the girl remembers that the prince left yesterday without saying a word, and after talking to the aristocrat, he looked unhappy. So she decides to go and check on him. Ariel comes into the prince's room and says that grapes have been brought from the village of Korit today. She asks the guy if he wants to try them with her. Siegfried replies that he is fine and suggests that she eat them herself. Then he turns and leaves, ignoring her. At this moment, the prince goes into the garden and the lady follows him. Then she asks him what he is doing there. The young gentleman does not answer the girl, but she is not upset by this and starts a conversation about how the sun is shining, the breeze is blowing, and it is so peaceful that she wants to lie down and take a nap. Siegfried agrees with the lady and says that this is possible, but that they will not have such peace and quiet in the near future. Ariel recalls that after hunting monsters, Siegfried will immediately go to the Eastern Front to resolve the conflict. His life will be in danger, and he can forget about rest altogether. Milady turns to the prince and says that she is sure that he will succeed, and if he goes to the Eastern Front, he will be just as active as he is now. This surprises the prince, and the main character thinks that this is definitely the story of how Siegfried goes to the front. After all, it is described in the novel, but it has not yet happened in reality. His Highness says that he has not yet decided where to go next. He asks how she knew that he was going to the Eastern Front. Ariel replies that it is simple, since he must expand his influence over the entire empire, and asks if she is correct. Her grandfather informs her that he thought His Highness might go where people are suffering from the conqueror. Siegfried agrees with her and says that this is quite possible. Hearing this, the main character thinks that, thank God, she has managed to get out of the situation. Milady says that everything is fine, and even if he goes to war, he will definitely come back alive, and she is sure of it. The prince says that she is speaking too lightly of it. After all, it is a battlefield, and there is no guarantee that he will return alive. Siegfried says that he will go to battle anyway, even if not to the east, because Isa has asked the emperor to increase surveillance of him. The timing is perfect, because his brother thinks this is a good opportunity to get rid of him without getting his hands dirty with blood. The prince reports that the nobility insists that he enter the struggle for power. His Highness looks at the girl and says that she says this so easily because she has no connection to him. Hearing this, the main character says nothing. They sit together and enjoy the silence and the view of nature. However, after a few minutes, the main character says that she thinks His Majesty needs to distract himself a little. She says that it is not worth thinking about what has not happened yet and tormenting oneself unnecessarily. Ariel suggests thinking about what today brings. The main character angrily says that this means shifting all responsibility onto the prince, who is 15 years old. She is sure that they are just talking nonsense and do not support him, because none of them have openly stated this. Milady says that aristocrats are cowards who are only looking for benefits. She suggests that the prince should not pay attention to their every word. Siegfried cries out that they can say what they want, but he is still afraid. The boy says that she does not know why he has to endure all these threats and difficulties. The prince says that his mother has died and that he no longer has a place in the emperor's palace. He is sure that he has nothing left and asks why he should fight. Ariel does not know what to say and tells him that he should think about the future and is about to leave. Suddenly, Siegfried asks the girl to wait and says that if she says it, there will be no turning back. And the girl says, like her husband. Hearing this, the prince asks why she is saying this. The main character explains that the reason he should fight is so that they can be together. The surprised prince asks why her. However, the girl interrupts him and says that she wants to see His Highness as an adult and how handsome he can become. Ariel says that it would be easier for her to wait a couple of years, and then they would see what the emperor would do. Siegfried wonders if she is implying that he is not yet mature enough and asks her about it. The lady explains that, of course, it is very difficult to see an adult man in a little boy. At this moment, she pulls his hair, and he asks her not to tease him. The girl says she is sorry for treating his feelings so lightly. She explains that this does not mean he has to accept them right away. The main character says that instead, she will protect them until His Highness grows up. And when that time comes, she will be sure of her feelings. Siegfried looks at Ariel and tells her to wait for him. He says that when he grows up, he will return to her to ask for her hand in marriage. Hearing this, the main character smiles and thinks that now everything will be fine. The girl suggests going into the house to try some grapes and says that she has not eaten anything today and is feeling a little hungry. The prince agrees with her, and they leave together. Ariel reflects on how strange it is that when she heard Siegfried's confession, she only thought about how to help him. She has a feeling that some unknown force may intervene, and she thinks that the influence of the original novel is having an effect. The main character realizes that, in any case, she can no longer say that nothing connects her and Siegfried, and she doesn't understand what to do because she likes him too much. Ariel looked at the prince and thought about giving him a chance. And, to be honest, she wasn't going to break up with Siegfried. After all, it would be nice to wait for him to return as a handsome man. Eating grapes, the main character thought about what a pleasure it was. Because she felt like she was sitting in a vineyard, the girl realizes that this taste allows her to forget her painful past. Ariel asks His Highness why he is not eating. He replies that he is fine and that it is enough for him to simply watch her eat. The prince looks at the lady and says he has a question. The girl says he can ask her. The guy asks what illusion she saw when she fell under the spell of the sirens. Siegfried explains that he is interested in this question because last time it remained unanswered. Milady replies that she does not know because she does not remember well. Hearing this, the prince claims that this is a lie and says that she remembers very well. His Highness says that nobles often talk about this because once you see it, you can never forget it, and he asks if the girl will tell him. The main character asks why she should tell him. She explains that she simply saw her ideal. The prince asks who it was. The girl asks what he means by who. She explains that it could have been a fictional character. Hearing this, His Majesty says that this is impossible because he saw that she was the wife of a nobleman, and he claims that all these visions are connected with real people. Siegfried asks the lady again who she saw. He explains that since she refuses to speak, it arouses suspicion. Ariel says that she saw a handsome man and that he was the ideal that he knows so well. Hearing this, the prince asks if he is more handsome than him, and the lady replies that he is. His Majesty assures the girl that she has never met a man better than him. However, the main character objects and says that such men must exist because the one she saw was very handsome and mature. Hearing this, the prince asks if she has seen him as an adult. However, the girl objects and says that she meant to say older, but at that moment, she asks how he understood that. The prince explains that the question just slipped out, and he asks if she really saw him. The gentleman looked at the girl and thought that she had accidentally interrupted herself, but it turned out that she liked him. Siegfried claims that the adult version of him is her ideal type, and he will try very hard to grow up quickly. The prince asks if the girl wants to say that now that she knows what he will become, she is ready to wait for him. Ariel replies that she is not interested at all. The next morning, Milady was packing her bags when she suddenly heard someone knocking on her door. The man asks if Miss Ariel is there. The lady opens the door and asks what happened. The gentleman says that he is pleased to meet her and informs her that his name is Kevin and that he is the owner of the Court Vineyards. Upon hearing this, the lady says that his wine is very tasty. However, the man says that he did not express himself quite correctly as he was the owner of the Court Vineyards. The main character asks why he has come to see her. Mr. Kevin informs her that she is now the owner of the vineyards, and that is why he has come to greet the new owner. The man says that he plans to stay here and continue working and asks if the lady will allow it. Hearing this, Ariel is surprised and asks what is going on. At that moment, the main character realizes that she never bought the vineyards. She asks if he has a certificate. Mr. Kevin says that he came to deliver it. After reading the document, the man says that she must sign it. At that moment, the main character thinks that no one she knows could have spent such an amount of money except for one person. Ariel asks the man to wait a moment while she clarifies something. The main character enters the office and asks His Highness what he has done. The prince asks the girl if she likes the vineyards. However, the lady replies that whatever the case may be, the prince interrupts her and says that this is not enough, and asks if she wants him to buy her the whole village. Hearing this, the main character objects and says that this is not what she meant. The lady asks how he could buy something so significant and not even say anything. She argues that this is too burdensome because it is not just a basket of grapes, but an entire farm. Siegfried asks if she didn't like it, and he asks if he should have done something else. Ariel says that this won't do and asks why he is treating her this way. She wonders if he shouldn't have come up with something better. At this moment, the main character thinks that if it becomes known that he gave her a vineyard, it will cause a stir in the capital. The main character says that she will not accept such a gift because she has no reason to. The prince asks why. He says that he did not sleep all night, thinking about what to give her. He feels that he cannot give her what she needs. As he was thinking about what gift she would definitely like, he remembered the vineyard. Siegfried says that she could eat grapes all year round instead of enjoying them only once a season. His Majesty thought he had gone too far and asked her about it. He explains that this is his first time giving a gift and he doesn't know how to behave. Ariel looked at the prince and thought that this was an awkward expression of feelings and His Highness. Since he was thinking about what she would like, she doesn't understand what to do now and how to refuse him. The Baron suggests that the girl not overreact, since he understands that His Highness bought her these vineyards. And he asks how the prince will look in the eyes of the people if she refuses him. Manhwa supports the Baron and says that he is right, because in her place he would have drowned His Highness in tears of gratitude. Mr. Herbert asks the girl to sign the certificate. After thinking for a moment, she signs it. After signing, Baron Herbert announces that he is officially declaring Ms. Ariel the owner of the court vineyards. At that moment, the main character thinks about what she has done. Abyssinian announces that it is time for them to leave, and if they do not want to be left without a roof over their heads, they need to hurry. Ariel reflects on the fact that she feels that the noble's attitude towards her has changed, and she thinks that it is just her imagination. The Count, addressing the lady, says that he hopes that Mrs. Ariel will also have a pleasant time with His Highness. Hearing this, the main character is surprised, and the man says that she can hide it from me, since everyone here already knows how close they have become during this time, and asks if this is not the case. After all, she saved him twice. The Count says that many have tried to win her favor, but even he could not afford to buy a farm. And he says that if such a gift is appropriate, then it is for His Highness, Lady Ariel. Hearing this, the main character thinks that she has a feeling that something is wrong here. On the way home, Ariel tells the prince that he looks great. The gentleman replies that of course he does and asks when he ever looked bad. Abyssinian informs them that if they want to make it to their lodgings before nightfall, they need to get out of the forest before dark. After they pick up the pace, the main character doesn't understand why she has this ominous feeling. She has traveled this road before, but now it is dark. Seeing the alarmed girl, the prince asks if she has any problems. Suddenly, an arrow is aimed at him. The knights cry out that there is a killer in the forest and that they must first and foremost protect His Highness. Ariel saw the archer shooting at the knights from the bushes. At that moment, the main character takes her bow and wounds the assassin. And at that moment, she thinks that it won't end so easily and that she needs to find a safe place. Ariel saw another archer. She thought that from such a distance, it could be dangerous and lead to instant death. So, without wasting any time, she approaches the prince and grabs the arrow next to him. The prince saw her wounded hand and asked if she was okay. Then he took his horse and followed the assassin. Abyssinian suggested that his sister ride after the prince and explained that they would take care of things here themselves. Abyssinian approaches the wounded archer and looks at his face. He says that Kyrian served Prince Isa and asks if he knows this man. The silver-haired guy replies that the face is familiar, but he doesn't know his name. He says that he often saw him in the prince's palace. Abyssinian is sure that Prince Isa is behind this and that he was aiming at His Highness. At this time, the main character has gone deep into the forest and cannot see His Highness. She thinks that he must be somewhere here. Suddenly, a gentleman emerges from the bushes and announces that he is here. Seeing him, the main character asks why he came out of the bushes. The girl says she was scared and asks where his horse is. Siegfried explains that it was running wild and he had to jump off so it wouldn't throw him, and then the horse ran away somewhere. Ariel asks if he is hurt. The gentleman replies that he is fine, but he is embarrassed that his horse went wild. Siegfried explains that he is used to such threats, as similar things often happen to him in the palace. He feels that he has become too relaxed lately. The prince stitches up the girl, as she was the one who suffered the most. She caught the arrow in mid-flight, and he says that he has never met anyone like her before. Ariel explains that perhaps it was because it was an emergency situation and she was prepared for something like this. And it was probably just a reflex. At that moment, the lady thought that she was actually shaking a little, and it seemed that she knew exactly where and when the arrow would fly. His Highness asks the girl to show him her wounded hand. However, the lady replies that it is nothing serious. Looking at the girl's hand, the prince asks if there is any healing ointment left over from the hunt. But suddenly they hear a rustle and think it is Abyssinia's squad. Ariel cries out to her brother, telling him that they are here. Seeing them, the gentleman rejoices and asks if they are wounded and if they have seen any other killers. The girl replies that they're fine and asks how they are. Her brother replies that he is fine, but Miliata has been wounded in the arm and 5 other knights have been seriously injured. Abyssinian informs His Highness that it turns out the assassins were sent by his brother. The prince replied that he knew this and did not need to be told again. Abishan says that it is getting dark, and he thinks there is no point in trying to get out of the forest before nightfall. He says that they will stay here and head for the nearest village at first light. However, right now, they need to help the wounded. Hearing this, Siegfried apologizes and explains that because of him, the plans have been disrupted and people have been hurt. He says he will compensate for all the damage and suggests going to the city to find the best doctor. Late at night, the main character thought about how she hadn't slept in tents for so long and had gotten out of the habit. At that moment, she decided to go outside. Leaving the tent, she saw a bonfire with the prince sitting next to it. She didn't understand why he was sitting there. Looking at the guy, the girl thought that just one glance at him made her heart ache. Ariel approached the fire and asked what His Highness was doing there. Siegfried replies that he cannot sleep, so he is just sitting there. However, he is interested in why she is there. The lady explains that she also cannot sleep and asks if he is all right. The main character says that she thought His Highness was suffering alone. However, the prince objects and says that she has misunderstood because he is perfectly fine. Hearing this, the lady thinks that she feels differently. She asks if he is really okay. The prince asks if she thinks he has suffered so often. The girl agrees with him and explains that she likes it when he behaves in accordance with his age and suggests that he do so more often. The gentleman insists that everyone has a reason to laugh at him. However, the girl assures him that she was sincere. At that moment, the prince thinks that perhaps he will not calm down even if he returns to the palace. Aisa will try to kill him, and the people around him will be in danger. The gentleman realizes that he cannot react so emotionally every time and thinks that he is still lucky, since no one was seriously hurt. He says that they should focus on strengthening their forces to repel the enemy. Hearing this, Ariel looks at the young man and says that His Highness is already so grown up. Siegfried tells the girl to stop treating him like a child. Hearing this, the main character thinks that she is glad he said that, as she had already begun to worry. Ariel tells the prince that it's time for him to go to bed and explains that to be her ideal man, he needs to be at least 190 centimeters tall. She wishes him well and tells him that they will see each other tomorrow. Arriving at the nearest village, they find a place to spend the night and the wounded receive medical attention. They plan to stay there for a day and then continue on their way. However, because some of them need treatment, they decide to stay longer. The prince informs her that he has rented rooms for several days and asks what they should do now. Ariel replies that they need to think of something. Siegfried asks the lady if she knew that there are many attractions here. He says that they can take a walk to the sea. And in the evenings, there are puppet shows. Ariel says that she knew it would be fun because he enjoyed performing at the last festival and asks if she is right. The young man says that he didn't get to see the whole thing last time. The main character is curious and asks why. The young man replies that there were several reasons for this. His Majesty asks the lady if they can take a walk to the sea first. A few minutes later, the young people are already on the beach. The main character says that the water is so clear and beautiful. Ariel saw a shell and picked it up. Seeing this, the prince asks what it is and assumes that it is probably trash. However, the girl objects and says that it is a shell. His Majesty says that it is so bright, and the girl asks how much this beach costs. Hearing the question, the prince asks why she suddenly brought it up. He says that she likes it here so much, and that's why he wondered. Siegfried says that the sea cannot belong to anyone and cannot be bought or sold. The girl wonders if he could buy her a village and give it to her as a gift. However, when she sees the surprised look on the prince's face, she says that she does not need to be thanked and explains that his heart is enough for her. The prince insists that he cannot be seen, but he must give her something tangible. Hearing this, the main character says that there is no need for that, because she knows that he is rich and that is already wonderful. However, the guy objects, saying that he does not want to be just wonderful, he must be confident. Ariel turns to His Highness and says that she thinks the performance has already begun. She suggests hurrying up because it's interesting. The girl informs them that they need to find good seats. However, when they arrive, they are standing at the back because all the front seats are taken. Suddenly, the main character sees His Highness leaving, and she asks where he is going. Siegfried explains that he has some business to attend to. However, the lady wonders how he could have business here. He says that if he looks for it, he will find it, and assures the girl that he will return soon. The main character looked at His Highness suspiciously. However, he did not say where he was going or why, and she thought that he was hiding something from her. When the performance ended, Siegfried still hadn't returned. Ariel thought that he was a liar, and she didn't understand why because he said he wanted to see the performance. But then he disappeared somewhere. The main character thought that she needed to calm down because he could have just gone to the bathroom and gotten lost, since he had never been to this village before. She understands that she cannot deny the possibility that Isa sent someone again because this has already happened before. Suddenly, Siegfried calls the girl and she cries out, asking where His Highness was. The gentleman replies that he had business to attend to and asks the girl if she could step aside with him for a moment. Ariel does not understand why. She asks why he said he wanted to see the performance and then missed it. The lady asks where he was. Siegfried takes the girl by the hand and says he needs to show her something. He gives the girl a box, and when she opens it, she sees a beautiful necklace. The main character asks in surprise what kind of jewelry it is. She wonders if that is the reason for his absence. His Highness explains that she said the sea cannot belong to anyone, so he wanted to give her something tangible. The prince explains that because of his feelings, he bought a lot of things, but she said that his gifts were burdensome, and so, to prove his feelings, he thought it would be better to choose carefully. Siegfried looks at the lady and asks if she will accept such a gift. The main character thinks that the necklace with rubies matches the color of her eyes, which means that he was thinking of her when he chose it. The lady reflects that in the past, the prince would have bought all the jewels, but such a gift would have been burdensome for her. And so he chose the most suitable piece of jewelry, and that means a lot because he wants her to accept it so badly. Ariel realizes that Siegfried will soon go to war and will only return in a couple of years. She has already thought about this and decided to restrain her feelings. But when he behaves like this, it is difficult for her to resist. The girl thanks the guy and says that she will keep it. On the way to the hotel, the lady informs him that this time His Highness was unable to see the performance to the end. He replies that he did not think it would turn out that way. She suggests that they watch it together next time, and the gentleman agrees with her. Suddenly, a servant announces that there is trouble, as Lady Ariel's vineyards have suddenly caught fire and all the farmers and their families have perished. 4 days later, they took the wounded soldiers and returned to the Elfrith estate. After the fire, the atmosphere was oppressive, as it was obvious that this was no accident. It was a warning to the Elfrith family. Siegfried claims that it was definitely the work of Isa, and the lady wonders why he would do such a thing. The prince claims that he does not need a reason and that Isa most likely heard rumors that he had bought the farm. The lady claims that he transferred the farm to her, and she says that the vineyards already belong to her. His Highness says that this only makes matters worse because he wanted to intimidate more than just him. Isa tried to send a message to the Elfrith family. At this point, the main character thought that these were warnings for supporting Siegfried. She says she would like to arrange a funeral and asks if the bodies have been delivered yet. The prince says that, unfortunately, the fire destroyed almost everything, and the villagers want to hold a quiet funeral without prying eyes. Seeing the sad prince, Ariel turns to him and asks him not to blame himself, because this is the result of Isa's tyranny, who does not spare even ordinary people. His Majesty says that he knows this, but assumes that it is his fault, because even his brother could not have expected things to go this far. And it's just awful. Since everything has turned out this way, all he can do is hope for the best. Siegfried says he'll protect the lives of those who are still alive. Isa could get to the people on the estate, so he suggests beefing up security and staying alert. Ariel looked at the prince and thought that he was the future emperor. And even in such a situation, he did not allow himself to be thrown off balance and continued to act. And now Siegfried seems calmer to her, which is a good thing, because the difficulties have only just begun. He needs to learn to be less sensitive. Abishian reports that the imperial decree has recently increased the rent for their estate. It was said that the same fate awaits others, but there is only one reason why the Elfriths were the first. Hearing this, the main character thinks that they want to punish them for supporting Siegfried. And she doesn't understand why they don't just declare that they have no connection to the crown prince. Elfritz, addressing His Highness, asserts that she does not think he can add anything else in this situation. Ariel's brother asserts that their family has always remained neutral. Hearing this, Ariel asks what her brother means. He says that he knows that His Highness has feelings for Ariel. However, now anything that connects him to them will only complicate the situation, even for the crown prince himself. Siegfried says he understands and leaves. He says he is going to the Eastern Front. At this moment, the main character thinks that the prince probably wants to increase his power. After all, he will go into battle and become stronger in order to protect his loved ones and the main character. The prince says that he will now write to His Majesty and assumes that he will definitely give his permission. After all, considering that he did not care about him at all when he was in the palace. The gentleman looks at the lady and asks her not to look at him like that. He says that going to war is a done deal. At that moment, Ariel thought that even though it had been decided that he would go to the Eastern Front, she still hoped that Siegfried was not doing it just for her sake, and that after that, he would return an even stronger man. The girl understands that it was decided that Siegfried would go to the front, and the moment of farewell is really close. Ariel approaches her younger brother and, crying out, calls him a little shit and asks if he was going to play in such a situation. She asks him what time it is. Miliad replies that it is now 12:30. However, the girl insists that this is not what she asked and reminds him that Abyssin said he would cut his pocket money because that was the case. But sometimes he shows favor. Ariel asks her brother what he has in his hands. Miliad replies that he took it from a man who came to them from the south. The girl asks if he had any money. She says that even if it is an expensive item, he should not have taken it. The lady asks what is inside the box, and her brother replies that it was simply given to him and he does not know what it is. Hearing this, the main character hits him on the head and asks how he could accept it without knowing what was inside. Miliad explains that the man introduced himself as a servant from the imperial palace, and he asks his sister if such a person would give him something strange. The lady asks what he was doing in the south and asks her brother if he asked him. The younger brother does not understand where all the suspicion is coming from and says that maybe he was on vacation. Hearing this, the main character agrees with him. Ariel tells her brother to go to bed because she is afraid that Abyssinian might do something to him if he sees him. The main character thinks that it is strange for a servant from the imperial palace to be in such a place. Walking down the corridor, Ariel meets His Highness and asks what he is doing there at such an hour. She invites him to her room. However, the prince says that if he enters her room so late, he wonders what others will think. The lady replies that the prince is now a complete stranger. He agrees with her and says that for now. Siegfried explains that he saw her at the window and thought that something was troubling her. The girl explains that she couldn't sleep and was thinking about how much work there was to do in the vineyards. At that moment, she thought that she had said something wrong and needed to change the subject. Ariel looks at the prince and says that he has crossed the threshold and is almost inside. The prince asks if from this moment on, he will cease to be a stranger. Hearing this, the girl thought she was in trouble and asked if she should wait until he grew up before taking the next step in their relationship. Siegfried asks if she's looking forward to it, because even in the siren's illusion, she saw him. Ariel asks if she was in his care and wonders if it is not natural. The prince says that he is eagerly awaiting the image from the illusions where she is waiting for him. Hearing this, the lady replies that it is good and suggests that he wait a little longer. She reassures him and tells him not to worry because she will wait for him. Hearing this, Siegfried says that everything is fine. And when they meet again, he will give the girl something more expensive and beautiful. And he will never let it burn because he will no longer allow innocent victims. Ariel says that she will restore the vineyards of court to their former glory. For when His Highness goes east, she will wait for him and look after the farm. Suddenly, a thought occurs to the main character that this is a work in which she has been reborn in the romantic genre. And along with the main character, the main female character must appear. The girl realizes that, in her memories, the heroine falls in love with Siegfried. And when he returns in 5 years, she can tell him that she no longer loves him and apologize for it. At the same time, she realizes that this cannot happen, not even in a year, but in 5 years. Siegfried tells the lady that while he is away, she should not look at other men, especially those like Manuel. Hearing this, the main character asks what His Highness is talking about. But suddenly, the prince asks what is going on, and the girl says that she has a feeling that the whole house is vibrating. She looks at the wall and sees many cracks in it. At that moment, Miliad cries out that there is trouble and tells his sister that there is a stone inside the box that summons monsters. Abishian asks what he is talking about. The prince shouts to tell Abishan that a monster has appeared and they need help urgently. There is no time to waste, and the building could collapse at any moment. Siegfried asks Ariel if she has a weapon in her room. The girl says that she always keeps one there. She tells them that they will return soon and asks them to try to hold out. At this moment, the prince thinks that he needs protection to buy some time. He takes a stick and sticks it in the dragon's mouth. At the same time, he thinks that he needs to somehow hold out until Ariel returns. To do this, he has to twist and turn. The maid, seeing the dragon, calls for help. At this moment, the prince asks her why she is standing there and suggests that she run, because if she stays where she is, she will die. But suddenly, the dragon approaches them, and the prince quickly grabs the maid and covers her with his body. At that moment, Ariel returns with a sword and stabs the dragon in the heart. The girl asks if His Highness is all right, and at that moment, throws him the sword. Siegfried takes the sword and stabs the dragon several times. Suddenly, Abishian rushes into the room and asks His Highness if he is all right. The prince replies that he is fine and says that now they must get rid of these monsters. They cannot be allowed to cause even more damage to the estate. Abishan orders the servants to bind the monster with chains so that it cannot move. At this moment, Siegfried finishes off the dragon. The prince asserts that the monster suddenly appeared in the middle of the estate, and he asks if it is possible to find out the reason. Abishian replies that Billion had a stone that summoned monsters. He received it from a servant of the imperial palace. Hearing this, Siegfried objects and says that it cannot be that such a stone could accidentally fall into someone's hands, and he says that Isa tried to get hold of it. His Highness says that he wanted to wait for the Emperor's permission to go to war, but he thinks that will not work out. And if he does not leave now, everyone around him will perish. But suddenly the dragon, who still has some strength left, attacks Ariel. Seeing this, Abishan orders the monster to be pulled up with chains, and they pull the girl out from under the dragon. Concerned, her brother asks Ariel if she is hurt. The girl replies that except for the fact that she can barely stand, everything is fine. Abishian looks at his sister and says that she is covered in blood and asks if she is sure that everything is fine. The girl replies that she is sure and explains that as soon as the monster attacked, she pierced its mouth with her sword. And it was the red liquid inside the monster that fell on her and immobilized her. Her brother asks if that means it's too early to call the priest. Ariel says she's fine and tells him not to worry because it's a good thing she brought her sword with her. At that moment, the main character looks at Siegfried and sees that he is crying. She approaches him and says that it is just a surprise and reassures him that everything is fine, as she does not have a scratch on her and it is not her blood. The prince says that she said she would handle everything that awaits him ahead, and the girl confirms his words. However, the prince objects and says that he cannot allow this to happen and he cannot allow them to be together. Siegfried says that he has realized that he may lose her because of his own stupidity, because people are cruel, regardless of their intentions. The guy says that he doesn't think he can bear it if she is hurt, and wherever he appears, only blood and ashes remain. His Highness says that he can no longer just stand by and do nothing. He says he is very sorry and asks the lady for forgiveness because he is so useless and helpless, and she likes him even though he has nothing. The gentleman says that he does not want her to live like this, and he announces that he can only leave far away. As soon and as the sun rises, he will immediately leave this place. At this moment, the main character thought that it was not that she was completely free of doubts about him, and if he had not shown up at the Ella Fritz estate, she cannot deny that she would not have thought about it. Ariel does not understand how she could reveal her feelings to the boy standing in front of her with tears in his eyes. After all, in such a situation, words of support would be meaningless to him. The main character realizes that all she could have done for Siegfried then was to hug him and tell him that no matter what happened, she would always be on his side. The girl thought that His Majesty did not need resentment and hatred now, but only a few gentle words to calm him down. Ariel looks at the guy and says that she knows it's not his fault. After all, no one can take responsibility away from His Highness, and so she suggests that he stay a little longer. He can always leave later. Hearing his sister's words, Abishan informs him that it was his own decision to accept the fugitive prince into their family, and so it would be foolish not to expect consequences. He asserts that his political position is not important at all, and if they had left His Highness, they would have lost a person. Abishan asks the prince to stay until he receives an answer. He also informs him that, fortunately, the wing was not damaged. Ariel supports her brother and says that they cannot leave the prince just because they themselves may suffer. Siegfried does not understand why she is saying this and asks if they are afraid of what might await them later. At this moment, the main character thinks that she herself does not know why she is behaving this way, but something deep in her soul tells her that she cannot leave him alone, and she hopes that he will be able to withstand and not allow reality to consume him. Ariel says that the prince pursued her himself and asks why he is now trying to run away. She says that all her potential suitors have run away and she would be lying if she said otherwise. The girl tells the prince not to cry as if he were alone in the world and says that she will be there for him. The girl says that the sun has already risen and the morning breeze is so refreshing because so many thoughts have flown away with the wind. The lady realizes that the fatigue that has accumulated has gotten the better of them, and she thinks that now it's time for her to go to bed because today was a difficult day. The mistress decided to stay in the wing and repair the estate. The damage was extensive, so it would take a long time, and the people calmed down a little after the commotion with the monster. And now everyone is enjoying a quiet and carefree life. The girl thought about how half of their house had been destroyed, and instead of behaving submissively, Melia didn't even think about repentance. It seemed to her that Siegfried was completely depressed, and her brother was too active. The lady thought that this was too much because he had behaved more dignified before. Meliad asks His Highness if he would like to go for a walk together after dinner. The prince replies that he does not want to and suggests that he enjoy himself without him. However, upon hearing this, the young man asks him not to be like that and asks if it is not his fault. Ariel reports that it has been 3 days since he lost his head and accepted that box. Hearing this, Meliad cries out, saying that he has had enough, since he already has Abishan left. His brother says that it is his good fortune that it is over. Suddenly, a man enters the room, and seeing him, Ariel asks what is going on. She looks at this man and thinks that he is one of Ice's guards, and she does not understand why he has come to their estate. The knight informs her that he is here to take Miliard Eliaritza away, but he did not expect to meet the prince here. Hearing this, Siegfried asks if he knew and is interested in how he dares to lie to his face and asks if life is not dear to him at all. The knight explains that he is only following the orders of the senior prince, and while searching for His Highness's stolen collection, he heard that a monster had been summoned to the Elifrit's house. Ariel asks if he came here to tell Miliad that these events are somehow connected. The knight replies that he is here because the servant confessed that he gave the monster summoning stone to Count Elifritz, and His Highness gave the order that if he cannot find the stone, he must bring everyone involved. The man in knight's armor turns to Miliad and tells him to come with him. Hearing this, the gentleman asks where they are going and whether it might be the imperial palace. The knight informs him that thoughtless disposal of the prince's property is a serious crime. Hearing this, Miliad cries out and asks him to wait, explaining that he did not know it was the prince's property and did not do anything wrong. However, the servant informs him that ignorance is also a crime, and if he refuses to go, he will have to use force. Suddenly, Abishan says that enough is enough because this is Elifritz's estate, and he asks the knights if they think it will be so easy to arrest his brother. Hearing this, the knight asks if he is ready to go against the orders of the imperial family. The older brother says that they will not give up Milia and that he should tell that to the prince. The prince turns to the knight and tells him to stop talking nonsense. Since it takes a week to get here, and he came to them 2 days after the monster attacked, and most likely, he was waiting somewhere nearby. Hearing this, the man in uniform says that he does not understand what His Majesty means. Siegfried claims that his older brother planned it all. The knight asks why the prince would do such a thing. His Highness asks what his goal was, and that is exactly what he wanted to ask. The knight claims that he was ordered to arrest everyone involved in the theft of the stone, but he knows nothing else. Hearing this, Miliad cries out that it infuriates him, and he will not go anywhere because he does not understand what he has done. He insists that this should be asked of the servant who stole the stone. The knight says that he misunderstood him because the prince ordered that all those involved in the theft of the stone be brought to him. However, the prince says that the knight must have another solution to this problem, and he suggests that he not bother with explanations. And if he sacrifices himself, everyone will pretend that nothing happened. Siegfried says that he has already informed His Majesty that he will resolve the conflict on the Eastern Front, and he announces that he will leave as soon as he receives the Emperor's permission. Yes, at that moment, the prince thought that it was a coincidence, because he had hoped that his brother would join the Eastern campaign. And he says that his brother wanted to tell him to go there and not come back alive. Hearing this, the knight says that if he agrees to do so, Isa is ready to forgive those who have sinned. Hearing this, Ariel thought that this confirmed that everything had been planned. Siegfried says that if he agrees to these terms, he asks if he will leave the Elfrith family alone. The prince asks if Isa ordered harm to be done to Ariel. At that moment, he thinks that she could be considered as a candidate for his brother's bride. At this moment, the main character thinks that if she stays out of Isa's sight, she will have less chance of becoming his bride. She cannot even imagine that this could happen because no one has seen her, and Isa had no reason to do so. However, perhaps he was only interested in her because Siegfried liked her. The knight looked at Ariel and asked her what was wrong. He wondered if she was happy to become the prince's bride. The girl replied that it was a great honor for her to be on the list. Hearing this, Siegfried tells the knight to tell his brother that he agrees to these terms. In return, he must promise to leave Elfrida alone. The man says he will convey this message and asks to be informed of the exact date of departure for the East. The prince replies that he repeats that he must obtain the emperor's permission. He asks if the man is suggesting that he forget about it. The knight says that he will then tell the prince that he will leave as soon as he receives a reply, and he says that he hopes he will be able to enjoy the meal. Late at night, the main character walks around the courtyard and thinks about how she cannot sleep again due to the intense events of the day. Suddenly, she sees the prince sitting on a bench in the garden. Ariel approaches the prince and asks him why he is awake. The young man replies that he could not sleep and asks why she is there. The lady says that she will sit next to him too. Siegfried says that no matter what happens, he will not let Isa get close to her. He asks the girl if she said she would wait for him, and the lady replies that he is right. The prince says that his brother also has pride, and therefore he will stay away from him for a while. Suddenly, he cries out that he does not understand why he was born 5 years later than her. Ariel asks if they were the same age. Would he have already proposed to her? Siegfried says that the chances of returning alive from the battlefield are slim, but he doesn't want to be selfish. And for now, it's just a thought, because right now, he has to be able to protect himself. And that's why he doesn't want to be irresponsible. The main character asserts that he will definitely become as strong as the older prince, and she believes in it. His Majesty says that she chooses such words only to please him. The lady replies that it is true, and at that moment thought that she would now die of despair. The girl realizes that in the last few days they have had almost no reason to laugh. And now she suggests that he can laugh freely, although she thought that seeing her would help the prince relax. But it seems that this time it will not be so. The prince says that he likes her, and as soon as he returns from the battlefield, he will immediately propose to her. And the lady says that she will wait for him, and she tells him not to dare bring another girl with him, or she will stand in their way. Siegfried looks at the girl and asks her in surprise if she doesn't understand yet. After all, she's the only girl who awakens feelings in him. At that moment, Ariel thought about what they were doing because the atmosphere was so pleasant, and the prince kissed her on the cheek. After that, he said that they would stop there and continue next time. After saying this, he leaves and leaves her alone. At this moment, the main character does not understand what she was thinking because he is just a child. The next morning, the lady thought about how there was a certain awkwardness between them after that day. After all, when they bumped into each other in the corridor, Siegfried walked past. It was probably not easy for him, and it seems that the prince was preoccupied only with thoughts of departure. The main character realizes that she should not have interfered. Since there are only a few days left that they can spend together, she feels sad. Ariel does not understand why she felt so awkward after kissing him, and she realizes that it is simply ridiculous because this is the first time she has felt such embarrassment. 2 days later, the emperor's reply arrived. The ruler had no doubts about Siegfried's sudden trip to the east, and the envelope contained only permission to leave. For the emperor and his beloved concubine, Siegfried would only be a thorn in their side. It would be better to imagine that he would perish somewhere on the battlefield. And so it was decided that the prince would leave for the east in 2 days. Ariel realizes that even though they spent very little time together, they managed to create shared memories. However, she understands that it is not easy to let him go and cannot remember what Siegfried was like before he appeared at their estate. The girl realizes that this indicates that meeting him was much more pleasant than she had expected. The day of Siegfried's departure has come, and they all gathered together at the table. The main character thought that she would not see him for at least several years. Ariel addresses His Highness and tells him that she wishes him a safe journey and that he should not fall ill. At that moment, she thinks that she feels like a wife sending her husband off to war. She does not understand why Siegfried has such an effect on her. A servant announces that Count Blanche has arrived to see the prince. The count then enters the room and says that he is pleased to meet His Highness. The prince says that it seems to him that the rumors that he was poisoned have not yet subsided. However, Blanche claims that they already know about his participation in the hunt for monsters. And he says that rumors about the princess and this person have already reached them. Hearing this, the main character thought that she might not know about it and therefore would sit quietly. Since we are talking about their relationship, and it doesn't matter how nice she is, because the age difference is big and even Siegfried doesn't care, the others may not accept it. His Majesty says that these rumors are true and that the lady will become his beloved. Hearing this, Ariel cries out and asks what he is saying. However, the prince does not understand why she is reacting this way and asks her about it. He says that she herself said she would wait for him. The girl agrees with him and explains that she is too embarrassed to say it openly. After all, she never said that she would definitely accept his proposal. The prince insists that these are just words and that now she can no longer leave him. Ariel explains that she simply said she would wait for him. The main character thought that when she had to live Ariel's life, she had a clear understanding that she would not become the prince's bride and would not interfere in the struggle for the throne. And that is why she pushed Siegfried away. The girl understands that he did not yell at her because he felt awkward, and she had other intentions. She did not want to be drawn into the struggle for power and wait for Siegfried for 5 years without any promises. And so she tried to draw a line between them, but in the end, she said that she would wait for him. Ariel turns to the prince and tells him that he must write her letters. Since he has deprived her of the opportunity to marry at such a wonderful age, His Majesty says that he will, of course, write to her and tells her not to worry about it. He reminds her that he said he did not want to be irresponsible. A servant informs His Highness that it is time for him to leave. The prince says that he must go. He turns to Ariel and tells her to be happy, stay well, and reminds her that he will definitely write to her. The main character tells him not to forget to eat, not to get sick, and to stay strong. She tells him that she believes in him and that he can handle anything. Hearing this, Siegfried tells the lady not to act like a child. At that moment, Ariel thinks that she feels a little sad. She realizes that she knew it would end this way. However, now she regrets that she was not kind enough to him. Ariel said goodbye to the prince and watched him leave. thinking that she had let him go with a little anxiety about the future and anticipation of what a wonderful young man Siegfried might return as. After Siegfried's departure, time flew by unnoticed. The elves spent several months restoring the estate, and in the end, it was returned to its original appearance. The main character recalls that she had not been with Siegfried for very long, but as time passed, his absence was felt more and more strongly. And she thought that tomorrow she would focus on rebuilding the burned-down farm. The girl reflected on the fact that sometimes she and Miliad had minor disagreements, but nevertheless they lived quite peacefully. A year had passed since then. The news that Siegfried had won his first victory on the Eastern Front spread very quickly. And after that, other reports came in about the prince's new successes. 5 years later, summer came again. Abishan informed her sister that she had received a letter. The lady wondered if it was also from His Highness. Her brother says he cannot know, although the prince was the only person who had written to her all this time. Ariel turns to Manuel and says that if he hadn't spoken so beautifully, she would have hit him long ago. At this moment, the main character reflects on the fact that she never thought Siegfried would write her letters for all these 5 years. After all, each time he sent her unusual gifts. However, this time, along with the news of another victory, she learned that the prince had been slightly wounded. The main character thought that the prince was finally coming back. The empire had always been peaceful, but conflicts often arose on its borders or beyond. Siegfried dealt with them for 5 years. Finally, he was able to bring the Eastern Kingdom, which had been causing trouble for the entire empire for many years, to its knees. The lady understands that, according to rumors, the prince's status has changed significantly. Previously, he was distinguished only by the blood of the first emperor and his noble birth. After the death of the empress, Siegfried lived under the constant control of the palace. However, now the situation has changed dramatically. The prince won every war, and the nobility, who had previously only observed the imperial family, began to side with Siegfried. Of course, his support was limited to places where Icy's eyes and ears could not reach. In the south, the situation was no different, and the aristocrats discussed Siegfried at every opportunity. The aristocrats said that the younger prince was worthy of the throne. And when Ariel heard this, she could only happily agree, as she thought that Siegfried would do well. After reading the letter, the main character leaves her room and tells her brother that the kingdom has admitted defeat and the prince is returning. Abyssinian, upon hearing this, says that she must have received a letter from him, and he is surprised that she knows the news before the emperor himself. He says that she has been packing her things because they are going to the islands to meet His Highness. Hearing this, Miliad asks if there is a casino there. However, his older brother tells him not to even think about it. Ariel says she needs to go shopping for new clothes. After all, when Siegfried returns from the war, a reception will be held in his honor at the imperial palace. And since the Elifritz family is part of the nobility and has a good reputation, they will be invited too. The next day, they receive an invitation. Sitting in the carriage, Abishan asks his sister and brother if this is their first trip to the capital. Miliad says he can't wait. He thinks that in a few years, his sister might become the crown princess. Ariel reflects on how, all these years, she has not been able to get the words of the messenger Icy out of her head, that she was being considered as a bride for the eldest prince. The girl reflects on how she is eagerly awaiting the reception in the capital and really wants to meet Siegfried, but she cannot shake the feeling that she does not want to see Alice. The main character realizes that the person who summoned the monster to their house did so to force Siegfried to go to war, and she doesn't understand what his face might look like, and she thinks that Isa has a terrible personality. Ariel recalls the story of how he stepped on his beloved girlfriend's wrist and broke it, and since she wasn't there, she only heard about it. And she reflects on how good that is, because in the novel, Isa did not show cruelty to Ariel. Suddenly, the main character thinks about how she doesn't remember when exactly this story took place. A week later, they arrive on the islands. When Ariel entered a clothing boutique, she was greeted by a saleswoman who told her she had beautiful eyes and said that this dress was from the new collection. The lady quickly found a dress she liked and said she would take it. The saleswoman said it was a wise decision. Ariel said she would look around and asked the saleswoman to write her a check. The woman asked the lady if she could know her name. Upon hearing the name, the saleswoman claimed that she was the daughter of Count Elifritz, and that if that was the case, everything had already been paid for. Hearing this, the main character is surprised and says that it is her first time here. After that, she visits several different shops and learns that everything has already been paid for, and she just needs to choose the dress she likes. She gets the same answer every time. Ariel asked the saleswomen who had paid for everything. However, none of them gave her an answer. The girl understood that if someone had given her such a gift, there was no reason to refuse it, and she felt that she already knew who was behind it. There was only one person in her circle who could have done such a thing. The main character understood that it could have been Abison. After all, he could have made such a gift in honor of his first visit to the capital. However, she did not understand why he would pay for clothes in advance at every boutique. The lady also speculates that Isa could have done it. She reassures herself that this is impossible and that she simply needs to dismiss these terrible thoughts from her mind. Ariel thought that it could have been Siegfried because he likes to show off his wealth. The main character bought a lot of things and thought about how it was her first time shopping in the capital. She thinks she may have gone overboard, and she thinks she is to blame because she was told to choose only the best outfits. Miliad, seeing his sister, asks if she is going to emigrate. Ariel asks where he has been. He replies that it is obvious, at the casino. He asks his sister not to tell their brother because he has only spent a little money. The girl agrees with him and says that she is in a good mood today and therefore will not spoil it. She shows him how many clothes she has bought. Miliad reports that everyone at the casino has gone crazy because of the upcoming reception. That's why he didn't stay there long. He explains that there are strange rumors that one of the princes will take the throne. That's why the nobility has started placing bets. Ariel asks what is strange about that. She says that Siegfried has the right to become emperor. Her brother informs her that the senior prince is guarding his position and that such rumors have appeared for a reason. Because every time news of a victory arrived, several people lost their lives. Miliad says that most of the newspapers that did not dance to the monarch's tune are now closed because they printed articles attacking the next great emperor. Those who want to get their piece of power began to show themselves because of Siegfried's actions. After all, everyone is interested in whether the younger prince will be able to take the throne, since he is the main character in this story. Ariel finds it strange that she cannot remember what happened to Isa. All she can remember is how handsome Siegfried had become. 5 years ago, his appearance suggested that he was made for the throne. The main character was completely sure that Siegfried would become emperor. Miliad turns to his sister and informs her that the reception will take place tomorrow and suggests that she go to bed. He says that Ariel will finally see her future husband and asks if she doesn't need to look rested. Hearing this, the girl tells him to be quiet and says that she will go to bed early if she wants to. The girl thought about choosing the most beautiful dress. After all, the thought of meeting him makes her heart beat faster. Ariel realizes that she wants to meet the lovely Siegfried as soon as possible. And she thinks that he must have grown a lot in 5 years, and now it is better to call him handsome rather than lovely. The lady thinks that when they meet, she needs to praise the prince a lot. After all, his cheeks will burn with embarrassment, and this is a wonderful sight that she wants to see. Abyssin calls Ariel and tells her that they are late and it is time to go. The main character puts on her most beautiful dress and says she is ready. Miliad tells his sister to hurry up and asks if she knows how long he has been waiting for her. Hearing this, the main character apologizes for making these two wonderful guys wait. Abyssin looks at his sister and says she looks beautiful. Hearing this, she thanks him and says that today is a special day. When Ariel entered the hall, she thought that this was the most spectacular event she had ever attended. All the most influential representatives of the aristocracy had gathered here, and there were especially many young ladies. The girl had heard that today, Isa would choose and officially present her bride. And so there were many girls here who wanted to show themselves in the best light. The lady understood that even if Siegfried was the guest of honor, by deciding to choose a bride today, Isa wanted to draw attention to herself. Miliad announced that he wanted to drink some wine. Hearing this, his sister said that he should behave more modestly. When the girl was left alone in the hall, she thought that she didn't know anyone here because there were so many people, and she felt awkward standing alone. Suddenly, a lady approaches the girl and says she is happy to meet her. She says her name is Lansha and she is a representative of the Kylo clan. The main character looked at her and thought she was very beautiful. The lady with long hair informs Ariel that her fame precedes her, as she always takes an active part in the annual monster hunt. Hearing this, Ariel smiles and thanks the lady. She says that this means she has heard about the aristocrats from the countryside. Lanesh informs her that the ladies in the capital know about her because of her relationship with the younger prince. Ariel says she is embarrassed that such rumors have reached the capital. She says she does not know where these rumors came from, but that they are not that close. The girl with long hair asks if this is her first time at such a reception and if she can accompany her, since everyone in this society has known about it for a long time. The main character thought that at first glance, Lady Lancia seemed like a good person to her. She was so kind, even though they had never met before. There was a lot of competition between the girls at this ball because each of them wanted to please the prince. The lady in the blue dress waved her glass of wine at the girl in the green dress and spilled it on her. The lady with brown hair, seeing this, said she was very sorry because she had not noticed the glass and accidentally dropped it. The girl in the green dress cried out, saying that she would pay for it. After all, the dress was made especially for her to stand out in front of the prince. And the man who had been with her the whole time asked how the girl in the blue dress dared to be so rude. The lady in the blue dress explains again that she is very sorry. The girl with red hair insists that if she is really sorry, she should formally apologize to her. She insists that the lady in the blue dress should sincerely apologize and, for example, kneel down and ask for forgiveness. The man supports the lady in the green dress and suggests that the woman move. He asks if she is not afraid of the consequences of her actions and has completely lost her fear. Hearing this, Ariel cries out for them to wait. She says she saw the lady in the green dress put the glass under the other lady's arm. They staged the whole thing to cause a scandal. The girl with red hair asks who she is and why she is meddling in other people's business. The main character replies that she is Ariel Elifritz, and she has been watching them closely. The girl in the green dress asks if there is any evidence that they did it. Ariel replies that they moved the plate to make room for a glass, and she saw a cake fall on the floor. At that moment, a servant announces the arrival of His Highness Prince Isaac Serwan Felista. Hearing this, the ladies eagerly await his arrival. The lady in the green dress quickly ran away, and the main character thought that she was a coward. When she saw Prince Isa, Ariel looked at him and thought he was very handsome. After all the men she had ever met, Isa and Siegfried were the best. However, a few minutes later, the main character thought about how this man had tried to kill Siegfried and her family. And that made her furious, even though he was so handsome. Ariel remembers that Isa was supposed to be her fiancé, and the girl noticed that he was looking at her now. Suddenly, she doesn't understand where this feeling of guilt is coming from. The main character thinks that she should avoid meeting him in the future. The head butler announces that His Highness Siegfried, the guest of honor, is running a little late. He asks all the guests to be understanding. Hearing this, Ariel thinks that since Siegfried is late, she can leave because Isa has too many admirers. She explains to Lady Lancia that it is noisy here, so she will go out onto the balcony for a moment. And when the main character went out onto the balcony, she thought that only now could she breathe freely. The girl thinks about how she will soon be able to see Siegfried for the first time in 5 years. However, she doesn't even know what to say when they first meet. She thinks about what she might ask him, how he's been doing, or if anything has been bothering him. At this moment, the main character wonders if it will be too formal. She also wonders if Siegfried has changed so much that it might be awkward for them. Suddenly, a gentleman approaches Ariel and says that he recognized her from afar and asks if she is from the Elfrith family. The girl replies that he is right. The man says that he does not understand how one could leave such a beautiful lady and go to war, and it seems to him that now he understands the prince's feelings. Hearing this, the lady thinks that just a few moments before meeting Siegfried, this guy decided to flirt with her. The count says that 5 years have passed, and they have not seen him during all this time. Ariel reflects that, despite his busy schedule, Siegfried continued to write her letters, but no one knows about this. She looked at the Count and thought that perhaps that was why he decided to try his luck. The lady realizes that if she gives him a reason, this man will seize it. The lady recalls that when Siegfried left, there were many who wanted to get to know her. But she told everyone that she would wait for the prince, as she had promised him. The Count asks the lady to go with him. At that moment, Ariel thinks that she needs to get rid of this jerk first. Suddenly, the main character sees the prince coming down the stairs toward her. Siegfried looks at Ariel and says that he has returned. Seeing him, the girl does not recognize him and asks who he is. Siegfried claims that it is pity because that is all she said to him after 5 years of separation. Surprised, Ariel apologizes and says she feels sorry for him and explains that he has changed so much. At that moment, the lady thought that she understood that it was Siegfried standing before her, but the prince had grown so much that she did not recognize him. And she thought that he seemed the same as before. The girl remembers that Siegfried was a very handsome boy 5 years ago. However, she never imagined that his body would change so much. Now he looks like a god of beauty who has descended from heaven to earth. Ariel does not understand what has happened because the sweet boy she once knew has not changed beyond recognition. Siegfried says that he feels awkward because he sees that some leeches have already attached themselves while he was away. Hearing this, the Count exclaims that there has been a misunderstanding. The aristocrat announces that he has other business to attend to and must leave immediately. He apologizes and leaves them. Ariel looks at Siegfried and thinks that he has grown up completely, and now she will not be able to treat him as she did before. She cannot even imagine teasing him or making him blush. The girl tells the prince that he has changed a lot. His Majesty says that it has been 5 years since their last meeting and that he must formally greet her. Then Siegfried leans over, takes the girl's hand, and kisses it. At that moment, the lady thinks that she doesn't understand why her heart is beating so fast. It could be because he kissed her hand. His Majesty asks if she has been waiting to see him. Ariel replies that she has missed him so much that she has even dreamed about him, and she is very happy to see him in good health. The girl asks why His Majesty is here and says that she heard about his delay. The prince replies that the message was just an excuse because he was trying to find her. The head butler announces the arrival of His Highness Prince Siegfried Lasienfelista. At that moment, the prince and Ariel appear in the hall. Seeing them, the aristocrats do not understand who the young girl next to him is. And then they learn that it is Lady Ariel. The guests think that this couple has already sworn fidelity to each other because they look good together. Suddenly, Isa approaches Ariel and says that he is pleased to meet her, as he has heard a lot about her. Hearing this, Siegfried asks what he is up to. Alice asks if his brother thinks he can somehow harm his beloved, and he asks if he thinks it's too much. At that moment, Ariel thinks that Isa is behaving very shamelessly. After all, she knows that this man does not even think about how much suffering he has caused her family. Asa says that there is nothing to be done, because at such receptions, the first dance goes to the person of higher status. And he asks the lady about Ariel whether she will dance with him. At that moment, the girl thought about how he had already reached out to her, and therefore she could not refuse him. Since people's attention only adds to the problems, and it is unacceptable for subjects of the empire to refuse the prince. Ariel thought that she understood Siegfried, but now she couldn't change anything. After all, he was just a prince, albeit a war hero, but Isa's status was higher than Siegfried's. The main character understands that if she refused the older prince, the atmosphere in the hall would immediately become tense, and the aristocracy would blame her for everything. The girl understands that she promised herself she would not interfere, but in the face of Isa's power, all promises lose their meaning. Hearing the music, the girl does not understand why this particular melody was chosen for the dance. And she thought that maybe the musicians were also on Isa's side. The prince takes the girl by the waist, and at that moment she feels uncomfortable and thinks that she will just close her eyes and endure it for a couple of minutes, because she needs to get this over with and return to Siegfried. While dancing, Isa says that it's a shame because she'd been considered his bride for a long time. Hearing this, the main character doesn't understand why he is telling her this, and she realizes that he is better at destroying other people's estates. Ariel says she has never heard of this, She thinks that in this situation, she must deny everything. Isa asks the lady if this is possible and squeezes her hand tightly. The main character thinks that nature has not deprived her brothers of strength. Isa says that he is sorry that this is how things are turning out. However, he asks her what he is talking about, as she does not understand. The elder prince says that he will ask her directly if she wants to be his princess. Hearing this, the lady objects and says that she is fine as she is. Aisa says that she refused too quickly, as if she had been waiting for him to ask her. When the music ends, the main character thinks that she needs to return to Siegfried as soon as possible. Isa says that he would not participate in petty battles of temperament. Hearing this, Ariel thinks that it is just a skirmish that threatens to turn into a real war. The senior prince informs her that she can enjoy herself while she can. Ariel approaches Siegfried and asks if he knows how to dance. The prince replies that he was, of course, taught to dance. During the dance, the main character thinks about how they used to be close, but now everything is different. Ariel asks the prince why he looks angry. His Highness replies that he is indeed angry. The lady is curious about this because she danced with his brother. Siegfried replies that he is still immature and behaves like a child. Hearing this, Ariel says that it's great that he acknowledges his feelings and talks about them openly. The prince looks at the girl and says that he is madly jealous of her. Therefore, he asks her not to go near Isa anymore. Ariel replies that she did not plan to do so, but simply could not help herself in the situation. The prince says that he will try to ensure that this does not happen again. The girl asks how he will do this and whether he has anything bad in mind for his older brother. Hearing this, the prince smiled. Ariel, seeing him smile, realizes that some things never change. Now he is the Siegfried she remembers, the prince who was jealous of everyone and craved attention. Siegfried suggests that Ariel leave so that no one will disturb them, and the lady agrees. But suddenly, Lady Clarissa in a blue dress approaches them and greets His Highness. When Ariel sees her, she thinks that this is the girl she helped before, and she is surprised that the lady knows Siegfried. Clarissa thanks the prince again for that time. Hearing this, the main character is surprised because the prince has only just returned from the war. Siegfried says that he only did what a knight should do, and they have already been thanked enough. The prince turns to Ariel and offers to introduce her to the baron's younger daughter, Marina Clarissa, whom he met on the borders of the Eastern Kingdom. The girl in the blue dress is surprised to see Ariel and says that she is pleased to meet her and thanks her for helping her. She apologizes for not thanking her right away. The main character smiles and says that she couldn't stand by and watch someone bully another person. Ariel asks Clarissa how she knows Prince Siegfried. The girl explains that in the midst of the war, their kingdom fell under the control of the invaders, and she almost became a prisoner. Clarissa says that her father, who was seriously ill, died, and she was ready to follow him. But at that moment, the prince appeared and rescued all the prisoners. Ariel looked at the girl in the blue dress and thought about her neat appearance and dramatic past. And the lady thought that this woman could be the perfect heroine for a novel. The main character recalls that before Siegfried's departure, she often thought that if he returned with a girl, she would be able to interfere in their relationship. At the time, it seemed like a joke, but now she is seriously concerned about it. And the girl remembers that the main character was supposed to show up, but she doesn't understand why today. Ariel looked at Clarissa and thought that she wasn't sure that she would be the main character. However, she realizes that the lady in the blue dress is too beautiful to think otherwise. Ariel reflects that she needs time to gather her thoughts and leaves them at that moment. The prince asks the girl when she is leaving, but at that moment the count approaches him and says that he is glad to see His Highness. Siegfried says that they have not seen each other for a long time and that he is also glad to meet Count Blanche. However, the man asks why there are formalities and suggests that he simply call him uncle. At this moment, His Highness thinks of Ariel and does not understand what is wrong with her. Arriving in her room, the main character lies down on the bed and thinks about how Siegfried saved the young girl who almost became a captive. However, she understands that this is his job. Ariel reflects on the fact that she was waiting for the main character to appear, but this weighs heavily on her mind. The lady recalls that when she first saw her, Clarissa already gave the impression of a young lady in love. And she cries out, saying that she does not understand why Siegfried had to save her. Ariel does not raise the question of why everything happened this way. She says that she could not have overlooked her because she was fixated on Siegfried's beauty. The girl thinks that she may now be pushed aside. The main character reflects that she should not be confused and that she needs to return to her original plans. However, Abyssin suddenly enters her room, and upon seeing him, the lady asks why he has come to her. Her brother explains that he just wanted to ask why she left the reception so early. After all, the prince is looking for her everywhere. Hearing this, Ariel asks if he is sure that the prince was looking for her. At that moment, she thinks about the fact that Lady Clarissa was with him. Abyssinian reports that Countess Ilia has invited him to tea tomorrow. He asks if his sister would like to go with him. Ariel asks if this is the woman who wanted to introduce her daughter to him. He replies that it is. Ariel agrees and says that she will go with him and suggests that he leave. Left alone in the room, the main character thinks about how she cannot get the image of Clarissa looking at Siegfried out of her head. The lady thinks about what a scoundrel the prince is. After all, when another man appeared next to her, he quickly got rid of him. And she doesn't understand if he thinks he can just come back with the girl like that. And the girl remembers that the prince said she was the only one for him. Ariel thinks that if he leaves her and runs off with Clarissa, she will make his life miserable. And she promises herself that she will. The next morning, the main character thinks that she slept poorly because of her thoughts about Siegfried. And now she looks terrible. She touches her face and thinks that makeup dries out her skin. Clarissa approached the main character and asked if she would mind if she sat down next to her. Ariel agreed and said she was glad to see the lady. Clarissa says that she came here today because she wanted to see her. Ariel asks why and wonders if she wants to say that Siegfried is hers. The lady says she doesn't know if Ariel knows this, but she felt that there was a misunderstanding between them yesterday. Hearing this, the main character asks what misunderstanding and insists that this is not the case at all. Clarissa explains that His Highness saved her life, and she just wanted to thank him. Hearing this, the lady thinks that such girls are ready to fall in love with a man for a noble deed. And she is sure that Clarissa is now thinking about Siegfried, which is why her face is blushing. The woman with chestnut hair says that she would like to thank His Highness. She asks if they could consider this place. However, the main character does not understand why she chose her for this and asks about it. Clarissa explains that she is closest to His Highness and therefore knows him better than anyone else. Hearing this, the lady thinks that she also thought so until yesterday. Then she asks what she means. Ariel reflects on the fact that Clarissa knew they were close, and she remembers that Siegfried never wrote to her about Clarissa. She thinks that she should have looked for a husband herself, rather than waiting for him. The lady in the green dress says she's sure Ariel can help her because they make such a beautiful couple. The main character thinks that she feels sorry that they are so well suited to each other because she should be in her place. Clarissa says she is sure that Ariel will marry the prince and asks if she is right. However, the girl with light hair wonders why she is asking her this. Clarissa explains that she would like to enter the palace as a lady-in-waiting. Then she would repay His Highness. Hearing this, Ariel thinks about how she wants to see Siegfried every day. However, she does not understand why she should be involved in this. The main character replies that she understands, and if there is anything she can do for her, she should ask her. The main character asks how old Clarissa is. The girl replies, 18. At that moment, Ariel thinks that this is the perfect age for Siegfried. Suddenly, the girl doesn't understand what's going on because it's gotten so noisy outside, and she doesn't understand what all the commotion is about. Ariel sees His Highness behind her and asks what he is doing there. He asks her if she wants to tell him something. He wonders why the lady left so suddenly yesterday. At that moment, Lady Clarissa greets Siegfried. Ariel looks at her and thinks that she wants her to leave. The main character suggests they talk and says she needs to go. She leaves, but Siegfried follows her. The prince asks if Ariel thinks he is unworthy of her again. The girl replies that she cannot think that about His Highness and asks him about it. Siegfried insists that it is obvious that she is avoiding him. He asks if something is bothering her. At this moment, Ariel does not know how to explain it to him, as she has not yet sorted out her feelings. After all, the main character has appeared, and she needs to step aside, even if she does not want to. The girl realizes that Siegfried likes her, but she cannot admit it. And if she continues to encounter him, she will blurt something out of jealousy. Ariel turns to His Highness and asks him not to come here anymore. She explains that this is a place of rest only for girls. The prince asks if it is difficult for her to give a reason, and the lady replies that she cannot simply say. Siegfried wonders if it is because of Lady Clarissa. The girl thinks for a moment and then asks what if it is. At that moment, she thinks that she should have denied it all. The prince explains that there is nothing between him and Clarissa. Hearing this, Ariel objects and says that this is only what he thinks, because Lady Clarissa dreams of getting into the palace. Siegfried claims that he has already refused her. Hearing this, the main character is surprised and asks why he did so. She cannot even imagine what will happen to her now. The prince does not understand what is going on, and the main character says that they will talk about it later. However, Siegfried does not understand what is going on and stops the girl. Ariel wonders why he is so stubborn and asks why he stopped her. The prince replies that he wants to talk to her now. He claims that if he stops everything now, she will continue to avoid him, and he asks if she thinks he doesn't know. The main character insists that this is not the case at all. Siegfried replies that he has not seen her for a long time and therefore does not want to waste any more time. He says that he hates misunderstandings, and so he suggests that the girl stop filling her head with silly thoughts and come to him. At that moment, the main character thinks that she cannot refuse a man with such a face. Siegfried embraces the girl and says that he has been dreaming about this since the moment he saw her. At this moment, the main character thinks that a moment ago she was feeling lost, but now her heart is crying out with happiness. And with the prince, her mood is wildly fluctuating.